My twin got a Jeep for graduation. I only got a lottery ticket. But it won $5 million. Am I the asshole for keeping it a secret? For my brother's graduation, my parents got him a brand new Jeep. I only received a lotto ticket. The scent of burgers on the grill every weekend, split-level homes with American flags flapping on porches, and neighbors who smiled at you but started gossiping the moment you left made growing up in the peaceful suburbs of Chicago feel like living in every teen movie ever filmed. My relatives? Traditional middle class. Dad was a logistics worker. Mom balanced excessive couponing with PTA meetings. Next came Jake, my twin brother, and me. Jake was that guy, prom king material, high school football standout, and somehow always tan, even in February. At least once a week, teachers would give him that "you'll go far" speech, and girls would trip over themselves around him. Me? Stacking shelves to save money for college was me, the twin with the Target name tag. I was in the high school chess club on Tuesday nights, if Jake was in the Super Bowl. But no ill will. Well, a bit, perhaps. Like when you know your brother stole the last piece of pizza without even checking, we were connected in that strange twin telepathy manner. But I just wanted to get out, while Jake revealed his attention. For me, college was more than simply a place to study. It was a means of escape. Jake's never-ending parties, my late-night essays, and our parents' intense graduation preparations made up my senior year. Mom got lost in Pinterest boards for the perfect graduation celebration, complete with themed cupcakes, fairy lights, and an excessively journey-themed playlist. Dad? Whether renting a margarita machine would make him the cool dad or get him kicked out of the next HOA meeting was the subject of his internal conflict. We always knew he'd make it big, said random neighbors, and Jake received months of congratulations after securing a full-ride football scholarship to Michigan. Me? I was keeping track of the days till I got out of state college. It was my opportunity to be just Zach at last, even though it wasn't the Ivy League. Not the twin of Jake, just me, not the other one. The days leading up to graduation were quite stressful. Jake was inundated with texts from girls organizing post-graduation vacations, in addition to rehearsals and parties. I worked double shifts at Target, and my potential roommate sent me an email asking whether I was okay with bringing a small refrigerator. Fantastic moments. Jake and I ended up on the roof of the garage one evening while Mom worried about seating charts and Dad tried to decide how many hot dogs was too much. It was where we were. A spot where there would be no noise and we could just be two brothers. Jake was excited about football glory, tailgating, and living in a dorm. I pretended not to imagine a world in which I wasn't only his sidekick as I listened. Everyone was excited about the surprises graduation would bring, and the big day was quickly approaching. Jake? He most likely anticipated something from a sports film. Me? My breath wasn't held. But now that I think about it, I should have known better. Jake was going to get something big, I knew. I simply never imagined that my gift would completely upend the world. It was like entering one of those high school films that always looked too good to be true on graduation day. The gym was decorated with gold and blue streamers, huge balloons that said Class of 2024, and a photo booth where people waited in line to take photographs wearing fake diplomas and huge sunglasses. The space was still haunted by the scent of cafeteria pizza from previous lunches, but nobody seemed to mind. Naturally, Jake was in his element as he grinned effortlessly and received applause from his peers as if he had just won the Super Bowl. Speeches that attempted too hard to be amusing, a choir performance that left me wondering whether any of them had practiced, and me sitting there contemplating my next Target shift made the ceremony itself drag on longer than a line at Starbucks on a Monday morning. With the kind of fervor typically reserved for lottery winners, Jake's name was called. It was more along the lines of, "Oh, right, him too." At least I didn't trip while crossing the stage, though. Little victories. The mayhem that followed was unbelievable. Mom was crying as if we were leaving for Mars. Dad is clumsily recording every second with his phone. I was pulled into hugs that went on for far too long by relatives I hardly knew. Jake's fan club mobbed him. Like I was in the NFL myself, I largely avoided questions about my future and nodded along with idle talk. At home, our backyard appeared to have been lifted straight out of a Pinterest board, complete with fairy lights, a table piled high with mini sliders, chips, and hot dogs, and a cooler filled with enough Coca-Cola to last through the night. Jake's group, all wearing polos and suspiciously new Class of 2024 t-shirts, arrived like a wave, each one louder than the previous. Next door, I saw Mr. Thompson smuggling another plate of sliders while feigning to socialize. Jake, most likely, made the decision that hiring a limo was the best course of action. The next thing I knew, we were huddled inside, listening to old songs from a playlist someone had discovered on Spotify from the early 2000s, stopping at Taco Bell and Starbucks because, apparently, a graduation night wouldn't be complete without nachos and coffee. Jake took in everything, including the constant attention, the selfies, and the giggles. Me? I relaxed while drinking my Coke, making jokes, and pondering whether or not anyone paid any attention to me. We held our drinks like Oscars during the traditional Starbucks photo op. And for a brief time, I thought perhaps this was my chance as well. When the celebration reached its climax at home and the fairy lights began to flicker in the muggy night air, Mom and Dad called everyone inside for the moment they had all been anticipating: the presents. Jake appeared about to explode, already envisioning the big surprise our parents had planned for him. Me? All I could hope was that my gift wasn't socks. I was certain that Jake would give me a memorable gift. But it was what I wouldn't get, not what he would, that troubled me. The suspense in the living room was palpable. Jake was literally bouncing off the walls, already seeing himself driving whatever fantastic present our folks had planned. Between sips of Mountain Dew and nibbles of pizza, his companions, stretched across our faded leather couch and half-empty beanbags, muttered estimates. A sports vehicle? A motorbike? A boat, perhaps? Surely Jake deserved something ostentatious. Mom gave him a key fob while fighting back tears like we had won the lotto. Louder than a Bears touchdown, the room exploded. Everyone followed Jake like groupies pursuing a rock star as he ran out the door. A new Jeep Wrangler Rubicon was parked in the driveway, shining in the streetlight. From the top down. Shut the doors. The type of vehicle designed to create memories at Lake Michigan while listening to country music. Jake's smile was as big as the skyline of Chicago. As if he was already halfway to the shore, he climbed in and revved the motor. His phone paired with Bluetooth more quickly than my Wi-Fi ever could, and all of a sudden Morgan Wallen began singing about highways and heartbreak. Jake in his classic form. I remained behind, taking it all in. This wasn't shocking. The golden boy was Jake. The hero of the hometown. He would get a Jeep, of course. Dad gave me a shoulder slap as if to warn me of bad news. I was given a little white envelope by Mom. No keys. No big bow, paper only. There was silence in the room. Awkward silence. Trying to convince myself it would be something cool, I opened it. A check for college? Perhaps? Cubs tickets? Perhaps. Within, a $25 gift card to Best Buy, a lotto ticket too. Now for the uncomfortable giggles. The king of terrible timing and my best friend since 3rd grade, Sam, poked me and muttered, "Hey, at least now you can finally buy the Xbox controller you've been complaining about." I made myself laugh. When life gives you a slap in the face disguised as a gift, what else do you do? Jake's pals hardly paid any attention. They were already fighting about who should be shotgun and were too busy cramming themselves into the Jeep. Mom gave me a deep hug while murmuring about the big things that lay ahead, but Jake's shouting that they were going to Dairy Queen and the sound of the Jeep's engine overpowered her words. Dad nodded at me. "You're aware of it." They nod like a chin-up youngster. I sneaked out the back door after shoving the envelope into my pocket. I felt protected on the porch. The sound of lawnmowers in the distance. The subtle aroma of hamburgers from a neighbor's grill. And me, using a coin I discovered in my trousers to scratch a losing lotto ticket. Numbers. I gazed at the gift card as though it had answers. Jake gained liberty, excitement, and limitless opportunities. My target salary was worth more than the plastic I received. The worst part though? Everyone seemed to have anticipated this. As if I were the one who didn't require the large items. Sam probably grabbed 2 Cokes from our cooler and spotted me outside with them. With his trademark sneer, he opened his can and sat next to me. Tough break, man. But hey, no one's going to ask you for rides now. I chuckled. This time it was a real one. As Jake's Jeep vanished into the darkness, we sat there drinking Coke. For the remainder of the celebration, I grinned. Played along. Even, like a nice brother, congratulated Jake. But that night, something broke inside of me. And I was unaware of it at the time. But that little crack? Everything was about to change. I felt as though I had just been benched during the championship game when I got home. Jake was likely planning weekend getaways to Lake Michigan with his pals while driving his brand new Jeep and listening to country music. Me? I was thinking how my life had devolved as I stood in front of the freezer and took out a frozen DiGiorno pizza. As I leaned against the counter and idly browsed Instagram, the microwave hummed. Graduation photos flooded my Facebook, including corny group pictures and caps thrown in the air. Naturally, Jake's Jeep has previously been seen. His caption, "New wheels, new adventures, Lake Michigan, we comin'. Jeep life, nigger blessed." I let out a sigh, enjoying the post only by default, despite the fact that it tightened my chest. I was startled out of my doom scroll by the timer's buzzer. After grabbing my pizza, I balanced the plate on my lap and collapsed onto our old plaid couch. The scent of disappointment and pepperoni filled the living room. I browsed Netflix till I came upon The Office. It was my first choice? The awkwardness of Michael Scott somehow lessened the tragedy of my own life. Jim's tricks on Dwight were hilarious. Let's be honest, I might be able to handle being Jake's twin if Pam could handle a relationship with Roy. Memories intruded like unexpected visitors as I chewed on it. On that particular Christmas morning, Jake opened a brand new PlayStation 5, and I received a $50 gift card to Amazon. He dismissed Madden right away. I came to the realization that $50 would not even buy a new controller. Or when our parents took Jake to Disney World to celebrate his outstanding football season the summer after his freshman year. Grandma Doris and her infinite collection of ceramic cats were left behind. What does she consider to be fun? Pointing out my posture and teaching me how to knit. The little things hurt too. On more occasions than I can remember, Jake was given the last piece of pizza. Football practice was a good reason, so he never had to mow the yard. Not to mention each time someone said, "You're Jake's brother, I see." As if that were my whole self. I grabbed another piece. I discovered I was down to 2. Fantastic. I was reminded that I always ended up with less, even by my pizza. It buzzed on my phone. Sam was there. He had the timing of a joke from a sitcom. "Dude, have you checked that lottery ticket yet?" I gave an eye roll. "Yeah, I'm sure I won millions while microwaving a DiGiorno." His reply was, "Come on, man," by text. "Do it for the meme." I took the crumpled ticket out of my jeans and moaned. It seemed like a mean joke. But whatever. All right, I thought, let's get this over with. I had no idea that moment would completely upend my world. I half expected the crumpled lottery ticket in my hand to disappear or catch fire like some nasty practical joke as I glanced at it. I launched my phone's lottery app with trembling fingers. My heart was racing like I had just finished a marathon, and the screen loaded more slowly than dial-up internet. "Scan your ticket," the application asked. I positioned my phone over the barcode while holding my breath. Processing. Then it appeared, $150,000. I blinked. I rubbed my eyes. Blinked once more. I must have been hallucinating after drinking too much Mountain Dew and DiGiorno. However, the figures remained unchanged. 5 millions. Money. I probably frightened the neighbor's dog with a noise I made. It sounds like a combination of a giggle, a gasp, and the sound you make when you stub your toe at 2 in the morning. Once more, Sam's SMS message appeared. "Have you looked it over yet?" My phone nearly flew across the room. $5 million wasn't used to buy a new Xbox. The money was for quit your job and move to a beach house. I went into overdrive with my thoughts. When you win the lotto, what exactly do you do? Google. Of course. What to do in the event that you win the lottery? First rule, keep it a secret. Yes. I'm not joking. For gas money, Jake would most likely sell my secret. Mom would become Oprah. A new kitchen is yours. You get a brand new vehicle. What about Dad? To put it mildly, I wasn't prepared for a 3-hour tax bracket lecture. I paced my room as if I were attempting to scuff the carpet. My mind was racing with a million ideas. Purchase a vehicle. Purchase a home. Purchase all of The Office's seasons on Blu-ray. I scrolled through several articles while I sat on my bed. Appoint a lawyer. Remain anonymous. Avoid spending too much too soon. Most winners disappear within a few years. Fantastic. There is no better way to destroy a mood than to be afraid about going bankrupt. I heard Jake's Jeep thunder into the driveway outside. As he spoke about the Dairy Queen girl who gave him her number, his laughing came through my window. Jake in his classic form. I took a quick look outside. He was there, flinging fries into his mouth while leaning against his brand new Jeep as if nothing were wrong. In the meantime, I was hiding a $5 million secret in my sock drawer. I considered informing Sam. But then I recalled how he unintentionally revealed it when I was infatuated with our math tutor during my sophomore year. Number I required a strategy. A good one. However, I had to conceal the ticket more well than a cliché. I jammed it into a worn-out book that nobody would ever open. Second advanced algebra. Even a burglar would probably leave that one alone. Once more, my phone buzzed. Sam. Hey, how are you? I smiled. Me? Yes. Remain relaxed, I'm doing fine. But within? My next step was already planned. I had no doubt that they would all want a share of this pie. I wasn't sharing though. I woke up the morning following my $5 million discovery feeling both excited and suspicious. Suppose I misplaced the ticket. What if someone discovered it? What if I were still working late nights at Target when I woke up, haggling with customers over expired coupons? I required a strategy. First step. Take this money to a secure location. I headed directly to the bank after telling my parents I had a morning shift. I Googled this as I was parked in my 2008 Honda Civic, which shook whenever I applied the brakes. How to deposit lottery winnings into a bank account without your family knowing. No useful Reddit posts. Lots of tell your mom right away suggestions. Which wasn't. It's happening. I had the impression that a neon sign was flashing over my head inside. Millionaire. I flinched every time the teller looked at me. However, an hour later, I left with a temporary card, a new account, and an appointment with my new financial advisor, Brian. Brian had the ideal appearance for a financial advisor: polo shirt, khakis, and the smile that undoubtedly indicated, "I promise you I won't lose all of your money." When I told him about my victory, he didn't even blink. Recently started a TED Talk on diversified investments. I gave a nod as though I understood. I'm curious if anyone has ever simply purchased a mansion and moved on. In the end, I bought investments in Amazon and Tesla because, well, 2-day shipping and Elon Musk. Operation New Zach will come next. Like a man on a mission, I struck them all. Skipped Walmart, headed straight for Nike, and in only 1 hour, I spent more than I had in the 2 years prior. Hoodies, Air Jordans, Ray-Bans, the necessities. I wasn't counting pennies at the clearance rack for the first time. Jake noticed right away as I walked into the house. New sneakers? He threw a football into the air and asked. I said, Uber, as if that clarified everything. It seems like driving random people around could get you $200 in sneakers in Jake's universe. I exchanged my Civic for a Tesla Model 3 a week later. Jake almost spat out his Mountain Dew when I pulled up for the first time. Nope, he chuckled. Isn't this comparable to renting a car from Uber? Yes, I shrugged. Testing it out. Nobody questioned it. My folks began making insinuations about bills. I was always getting made fun of by Jake for being the fancy Uber driver. In the meantime, I was creating a life that nobody was aware of. I felt liberated for the first time. Jake had his fan club and his Jeep. I had a new beginning and my secret money. However, secrets like mine, they never remain undetected for very long. After the Post Malone concert, with my ears still ringing from the bass and Sam's off-key singing, I drove back down Interstate 90 as the Tesla's autopilot hummed softly. With front row tickets, expensive merchandise, and enough adrenaline to last me a week, the night had been ideal. I was ecstatic, picturing myself driving my Tesla to late-night Taco Bell runs and never having to justify my inability to take spring break vacations. However, when I arrived into our driveway and saw that all of the lights were still on, my excitement began to fade. It was nearly midnight. Strange. I entered with the half expectation that everyone was asleep. Perhaps Jake had fallen asleep while holding his Xbox controller. Rather, like a horrible TV drama intervention scene, Mom, Dad, and Jake were waiting in the living room. Jake was sitting there with my black jacket, which I had inadvertently left behind. Too nonchalantly, he said, "Nice jacket." You know what I discovered in the pocket? During finals week, my stomach fell more quickly than my grade point average. You looked through my belongings? I shot back, trying to sound angry rather than scared. Jake smirked as if he had just scored a game-winning touchdown and shrugged. I felt chilly. I assumed you wouldn't mind. I didn't have to look very far though. There it was, this tiny jewel. He waved the Tesla financial report, which included my $100,000 investment. Mom's voice was hardly audible as her eyes grew wide. Zach, where did you obtain money like this? Dad leaned forward, wearing his trademark serious expression. Take a seat, right now, no way out. My heart was racing. Even if I claimed to have discovered it on the sidewalk, that wouldn't be acceptable. With a sigh, I combed through my hair. I confessed, the words tasting like defeat, I won the lottery. $150,000. Mom blinked quickly, as if she were updating her system. You didn't tell us that it was $150,000? Why? Dad massaged his chin, already in calculator mode. Teaching. Auto insurance. Debt from credit cards. Many family expenses might be covered by this. With that grin that made me want to hurl a pillow at his face, Jake, being Jake, leaned back. I suppose you may now get an actual car instead of renting a Tesla. Like a Toyota, I suppose? I tried not to chuckle, but I knew I wasn't prepared for the storm that was about to erupt. The living room had the atmosphere of a courthouse. And the defendant was unquestionably me. Mom paced. As if counting every dime they had ever spent, Dad scratched his temples. What about Jake? As if this were background noise, Jake simply browsed through his phone. Normal. Mom responded in a voice that was a mixture of sadness and incredulity. I can't believe you hid this from us. Zach, you have always had our support. Always. I tightened my jaw. Help me? You mean how I received a $25 gift card and you used all of your savings on Jake's Jeep? Jake laughed quietly to himself. Well, you did use it to get those lovely Air Jordans, correct? That was it. I lost my temper. You know what? I firmly stated, I'm not giving you any money. Not for the mortgage. Not for auto loans. And most certainly not for Jake's upcoming Lake Michigan weekend getaway. Mom let out a gasp as if I had just announced my move to Mars. Your family is us. Families support one another. Funny, I retorted. When I was working double shifts at Target to pay for college, I don't recall much assistance. Dad made an effort to maintain harmony. We considered Jake's Jeep to be an investment in his future son. He required it for what purpose? I cut you off. Posts on Instagram? Driving by Starbucks? At last, Jake raised his head. Calm down, man. You're behaving as though I made them purchase it. I sounded sarcastic on the inside. All right, because it's not at all coercive to declare, I need a Jeep. The guilt trips were Mom's first. Zach, we tried our best. Perhaps you could lend a hand a bit. We have several bills that are past due. The water heaters have exploded. New brakes are needed for your dad's vehicle. I reached for my coat. I'm finished. Done, she said in a pejokied tone. Yeah, I said with a nod. Done being the backup plan. Done being the afterthought. I spent the night packing my laptop, chargers, and a stack of foil-wrapped leftover pizza pieces into a duffel bag along with my clothes. Jake didn't even make an effort to bid farewell. He was too preoccupied in FaceTiming his pals about a party. I went to Starbucks the following morning and ordered a venti caramel macchiato. I mean, I could finally afford one without having to check my bank account first. After that, I agreed to a lease for a little flat in the heart of the city that overlooked the Chicago River. It was a little space, as small as your bed and couch. However, it included bare brick walls, a refrigerator that didn't sound like it was dying, and nobody is requesting that I pay the Wi-Fi fee. While sipping my coffee on the balcony, I observed boats gliding down the river. And became aware of something. I was free for the first time in my life. A year went by. Additionally, life has a humorous way of keeping things in balance. Is that Jake's gleaming Jeep Wrangler? Totaled. After he strayed in a Walmart parking lot in an attempt to win over a girl. Yes, since nearly striking a cart return station is the epitome of romanticism. My folks, trying to keep up with Jake's never-ending expenses has left me drowning in credit card debt. Miami spring break vacations, the newest iPhone he simply had to have, and the emergency AirPods that he inexplicably misplaced 3 times. In the meantime, I prospered. No more eyebrows were raised by my Tesla. People simply thought I was another well-paid computer person. My investments yielded significant returns. And I invested in a tech startup that showed promise. Things detonated more quickly than a microwave popcorn bag. All of a sudden, I was more than just the quiet twin who worked Target shifts. For weekend trips, I was the one who arranged last-minute flights to Los Angeles. The man sharing photos of the Grand Canyon sunrise. Disney World? Twice, cross that off my bucket list. I even managed to get a picture of me holding a churro with Mickey Mouse. For what reason? It was like watching a montage of one of those motivational TikToks. The background music is low fidelity. The call, which was inevitable, then arrived. Zach, we need help. Over the phone, Mom's voice wavered. We're behind on everything. The house. The cars. Even groceries. Jake added, sounding less arrogant than normal. Look man, I screwed up. But we're family, right? I swirled my expensive Starbucks iced coffee and grinned bitterly. Maybe you should have invested in me instead of a Jeep. I ended the call. I'm half anticipating a callback. They didn't. However, fate had not yet finished with me. My phone rang one day. Grandpa was there. Hey kiddo, just checking in. I bet that lottery ticket changed everything, huh? I gasped. Wait, you knew? Of course, he said, laughing. I bought that ticket. Give it to your folks for your graduation. Always knew you were meant for something big. Tears came. Shame too. The only person who thought of me as more than a backup player was Grandpa. I gave 15 years to build our family business, but my brother got the new truck as an engagement gift. I quit and the company fell apart. I was the mainstay of Wilson Family Plumbing. My name is Alex, and I am 35 years old. When the majority of my pals left for college, I remained to assist Dad in growing the company. I gained first-hand knowledge of everything, including how to unclog obstinate drains, repair leaky pipes, construct intricate systems, and handle upset clients at 2 in the morning. During crises in the winter, I took over the company. Earl, my father, progressively returned to a managerial position. In his garage, Dad began with a van and a toolkit. We now have 8 trucks and 12 staff, or rather, they do. There was no magic or serendipity behind that growth. I gave up weekends, sweated for thousands of hours, and paid close attention to establishing our name in the neighborhood. Each and every favorable review. Each and every recurring client. Every recommendation. I had personally made sure they were happy. 5 years ago, my younger brother Travis joined. He still behaves like a youngster who is compelled to work in the family business at the age of 28. He frequently arrives late, takes long meals, and leaves tasks unfinished. It's astounding how many consumer complaints I've had to handle following his trips. Although I'm available for emergencies around the clock, on the weekends, Travis forgets his phone. Dad always has an excuse ready, somehow. He's still learning the ropes, and not everyone has your natural talent, Alex. There were always the warning signs. New hires I trained frequently received promotions ahead of me. After I put in place a new scheduling system that resulted in a 30% increase in efficiency. At our corporate meeting, Travis received recognition for his support of the program. When I proposed diversifying into business contracts, Dad said it was too dangerous. Travis made the same suggestion 6 months later. My father referred to it as innovative thinking. It became impossible to overlook the discrepancies in wealth. For years, Dad had promised me a partnership, lingering ownership interests that never came to pass. In the meantime, I found that Travis was earning $155,000 more a year, while being less experienced and having less responsibilities. The 2010 vehicle I was driving had 180,000 miles on it. Travis and Dad? They drove around in cars that weren't even 3 years old. Loyalty was important, I told myself. The family comes first. That one day Dad would see what I had done. In every way, I was mistaken. For months, my truck had been experiencing frequent breakdowns. The suspension was shot, the transmission was slipping, also there were rust holes in the cargo area that allowed water to enter during rainstorms, damaging costly equipment. Following a particularly severe malfunction that cost us a significant client, at last, Dad acknowledged that we needed a new car. I was evaluating the damage to my old truck that evening. Dad took 2 beers and came out to the garage. Leaning against the workbench, he handed one to me. It was like the old days for a while. Prior to Travis's employment with the organization. When I would resolve issues with Dad. Remember when I taught you how to change the belt on the old Ford? His grizzled face softened with a rare smile. You couldn't have been more than 12. I nodded as the recollection came back to me. You let me do the whole job while you supervised. Told me I had the steadiest hands you'd ever seen on a kid. Never seen anyone take to plumbing like you did, Alex. Natural talent. He looked at the truck instead of me while he sipped his beer slowly. This business, it wouldn't be what it is without you. It made me feel valued for a time. Like I seldom ever did anymore, I felt a connection to him. Before returning inside, he gave me a shoulder clap, leading me to ponder why those epiphanies had become so infrequent. When it really mattered, why couldn't he see my worth? In front of Travis, in compensation, in business decisions? I looked into my alternatives for weeks. Locating the best offers, organizing all the paperwork, and striking a balance between cargo capacity and fuel efficiency. I even made financial arrangements with our long-standing bank. For the following 10 years, this truck would serve as my mobile office. I wanted to do it correctly. Dad invited all of us to dinner that Sunday. Travis brought Jessica, his fiancée, who had just gotten engaged after only 8 months of dating. Mom prepared a feast. Dad looked unusually happy. When dessert was finished, he got up and yelled for everyone to pay attention. My heart soared. Perhaps, I reasoned, he would finally recognize my efforts. Perhaps even make public the collaboration we had discussed. Rather, he produced a set of keys that were fastened to a silver keychain bearing the business's emblem. He gave them to Travis with the broadest smile I'd seen in a long time. To help you start your new life, son. The new company truck is yours. I had them add all the upgrades you wanted. Consider it an engagement present from your mother and me. The ensuing quiet seemed to last forever. Jessica clapped her hands with joy as Travis smiled smugly. My emotions went unnoticed by them. While averting my gaze, my mother busied herself cleaning plates. At last, I was able to speak, but my voice was constricted. Dad, we discussed that truck for the service calls I handle. Travis doesn't even do emergency work. Dad dismissed it with a wave. You can keep using your current truck for a while longer. Travis needs to project a professional image now that he'll be taking over more client relationships. Besides, you know how to keep that old one running. You've always been good with repairs. Without even feigning gratitude, I watched Travis dangle the keys while discussing how he may personalize the paint job. His newest hobby was the truck that should have been mine, the one I required for my real job. Something eventually snapped inside me on the way home in my squeaky old pickup. It was more than just the car. It was neglected, underappreciated, and taken for granted for around 15 years. It was the knowledge that Travis would always be the preferred son and I would always be the dependable workhorse, regardless of what I contributed. I had trouble sleeping that night. I looked through job postings, something I had never given much thought to before. I gave Jack, a former coworker who had gone to work for a rival company, a call to inquire about their business. I was astonished by his response. Alex, you could write your own ticket anywhere in the county with your abilities and connections with clients. What, really, has kept you at your dad's house for so long? For the first time, I understood that my own mistreatment had been made possible by what I had assumed to be loyalty. I had forgotten my own value since I had been so accustomed to being underappreciated. Jack stated that his business required a skilled expert to oversee their commercial branch. Precisely the chance that my father's business had refused me. I painstakingly documented everything I handled throughout the course of the following week. Comprehensive guidelines for our systems, customer preferences, maintenance plans, supplier connections, and emergency procedures. I included remarks about each significant client to the customer database. I refused to become like them by undermining the company. However, I also didn't want to give them a reason to phone me after I left. When I got to work early the next Monday, I put an envelope on my father's desk. Casually late as usual, he came an hour later. His look changed from bewilderment to incredulity as he opened the envelope. 2 weeks' notice? Alex, have you got a joke? He leaned back in his chair and inquired. I calmly and professionally expressed my choice. I only touched on the vehicle incident in passing, preferring to talk about the partnership's repeated unmet promises and my need for professional development. Brighton Plumbing Services was the company I had accepted a position with. Dad sneered. You'll be back in a week. What we provide you here is unmatched by them. Isn't this just a tirade over the truck? He didn't even bother to inquire about my wages. He might have understood that I would be earning almost 40% more, with benefits, and that I would have a clear route to partnership in just 2 years. The company was instantly inundated with the news. Instead of his typical smug expression, Travis's face flushed with dread as he cornered me in the supply room. He growled, "You can't just walk away. Who will be in charge of the West Side contracts? Or the upkeep of the hospital? Or the calls for emergencies?" His self-assured exterior momentarily broke down. He lowered his voice to a whisper. "Dad has been preparing me to assume leadership in the future, but half of what you do is unknown to me. I didn't bother to become familiar with the systems. This is not what I'm ready for." I was shocked to hear the admission of inadequacy. However, it was no longer my issue. He had been content to claim credit for years while I completed the work. I answered, "I'm sure you'll figure it out. You have a nice new truck to drive around in, after all." Unexpectedly, those 2 weeks were freeing. As many of my duties as I could, I taught others. I presented their new technicians to important clients. I painstakingly recorded everything in a 3-ring binder with the big marker label Essential Operations. I put the binder, my business phone, my credit card, and the building's keys on my father's desk on my last day. Dad hardly noticed that I was gone. He remained certain that I would return in a matter of days. Mom contacted me that night with tears in her eyes, pleading with me to think again. She stated, "Family businesses have ups and downs. But we must remain united." I politely mentioned that despite always being underappreciated, I had remained loyal to them for 15 years. This was not a rash choice. It was past due by 15 years. It was an eye-opening first month at Brighton. I was referred to as the best plumber in the county, by my new boss Kevin, to both clients and employees. In addition to being heard, my recommendations were put into practice. When I suggested a more effective method for scheduling business maintenance, Kevin gave me the tools to implement it and urged me to make it a company-wide system. Then my first big test arrived. For months, Brighton has unsuccessfully bid on the Lakeside Corporate Park contract. I knew I had important inside information when Kevin said they were trying one last time. For years, Wilson Family Plumbing had provided building maintenance, and I was fully aware of their priorities and the problems they had faced. Knowing that, I could almost assure Brighton of winning the contract. However, it felt wrong to use such information. A breach of confidentiality for clients. Even though, in theory, I hadn't signed anything that would have stopped it. I thought about my possibilities through a restless night. I got everything from Brighton that my family business couldn't: show respect, just compensation. The chance. I wanted to demonstrate my worth. But not at the expense of my morals. I entered Kevin's office the following morning and gave him the following explanation. Although I was unable to provide precise information regarding lakeside systems, with my knowledge of comparable properties, I might assist Brighton in developing a more robust general proposition. Kevin looked at me for a while. He finally remarked, "You know, most guys would have just used whatever advantage they had. Alex, I hired you precisely because of your integrity. Despite this, we were able to secure the contract based on our bid rather than insider knowledge. More than any simple win could have, that moment solidified my position at Brighton. Most unexpectedly, I completed my assignment within a fair time frame. Travis had messed up a simple job, therefore there would be no more midnight calls. No more working on the weekends since Dad had made unrealistic deadline promises without first talking to me. I started hiking on Saturdays, got back in touch with old pals, and even started dating someone who wasn't worn out by my frequent work emergencies. The consequences at Wilson Family Plumbing, meanwhile, were immediate and serious. Their Yelp rating fell from 4.8 to 3.2 stars in only 2 weeks. When they found out I had left, customers who had expressly asked for me were incensed. Missed meetings and duplicate bookings resulted from the breakdown of the intricate scheduling system I had developed, which no one else fully understood. By week 3, the texts began to come in. From Travis first. How can I view the maintenance records for the hospital? Next, from Dad. Where did you save the Peterson job warranty details? I just replied with succinct, business-like instructions for the paperwork I had left behind. When Travis tried to manage the quarterly maintenance at Riverside Medical Center, our biggest commercial client, a serious situation arose. A storage area flooded as a result of his failure to close a major valve. Their contract was immediately terminated by the hospital, resulting in an annual loss of $180,000. 2 seasoned technicians left that same week, complaining about the unorganized schedule and a lack of direction. One of those techs, Tom, who is currently employed by a rival company, told me what transpired after that. After having a total breakdown at the office, Travis screamed that he was being set up to fail and threw tools across the workshop. He said that his father had thrown him into the deep end without the necessary training and had expected him to take on my responsibilities right away without ever giving him the chance to learn. Tom explained how Travis eventually passed out on a bench with his head in his hands and muttered, "Alex made it seem so simple." I had no idea. I didn't bother to find out. It seems that Dad simply stood there, looking pale, as the company he founded fell apart all around him. The weight of real responsibility was causing the Golden Sun's facade to crumble. The tone of my family's text drastically shifted. "Please call us." Which evolved from "we need to talk" to "the business is in serious trouble." Mom began making calls every day, her messages getting more urgent. Jessica, Travis's fiancée, even reached out, stating that he was so stressed out that he was having trouble sleeping. I kept my distance and concentrated on succeeding in my new position. In my first 2 months, I closed 3 significant commercial contracts and received a hefty bonus. I was finally able to save enough money for a down payment on a small property thanks to my raise and manageable work schedule. I also purchased a new truck for myself, not a corporate car. Funded by the results of labor that has been adequately compensated. In our industry, news spreads quickly. In passing, suppliers who dealt with both businesses brought up Wilson Family Plumbing's demise. One person said, "Heard your dad had to lay off 3 more guys while delivering parts." It is disheartening to witness a long-standing company experiencing such difficulties. I remained dignified in my work. In spite of the temptation, I never disparaged my family. On a Tuesday night, after we had not spoken for 3 months, my father called. There was a change in his voice. Older, defeated. "Alex, we must speak. In person. The company. It's not good." We decided to meet on neutral ground, at a coffee shop halfway between our houses. Their physical changes were startling when Dad and Travis showed up. Dad was lighter. His normally flawless appearance had become unkempt. Travis appeared to have gone weeks without sleep. His eyes had dark shadows under them. He has lost all of his usual swagger. They outline the terrible circumstances, Revenue is 60% lower. There were only 4 employees left. Their business loan was jeopardized by the bank. To cover costs, 3 trucks have already been sold. Travis had been really proud of the new truck. Sacrificed to keep the lights on, gone too. Dad had even taken out a mortgage on his home to help finance the struggling company. Alex, we made mistakes, Dad said, his voice cracking. I erred. You were taken for granted by me. I'm paying the price now. I witnessed my father crying for the first time in my life. Travis couldn't look me in the eyes and instead gazed at the table. A folder was pushed across the table by Dad. It contained a partnership agreement that included full operational management, a significant pay raise, and 45% ownership. Please, he said in a whisper. Help us preserve what remains. The previous Alex would have seized the chance, eager to be acknowledged for the first time after longing for it. However, the day my truck was given away, that version of me passed away. Rather, I simply stated that I had no interest in going back. From day one, I had discovered a location where my abilities were appreciated, not after a disastrous failure compelled acknowledgement. I clarified, I'm not trying to punish you. I just realized how valuable I am at last. I tried to earn something that should have been given to me freely for 15 years. Show respect. Just compensation. Recognition. I refused to go back. At last, Travis's voice was hollow. Until you departed, I had no idea how much you were doing. Running service calls seemed simple to me. He hesitated and swallowed hard, thinking. I believe Dad was giving you preferential treatment. Completing all of the crucial work for you. I was mistaken. I took no pleasure in their misery. Rather, I provided what assistance I could, names of potential qualified plumbers for their reorganized company. Ideas for simplifying in order to continue operating with a reduced operation. Suggestions for clients to focus on in order to restore their reputation. I informed them, this isn't about retaliation. I didn't go out to harm you. I departed because I was worthy of better. Wilson Family Plumbing is still in business 6 months later, but is a shadow of what it used to be. Dad has taken a big step back and is thinking about retiring early. Instead of delegating everything, Travis has been compelled to learn the ropes and handle service calls himself. After losing the majority of their commercial clients, they now only have 3 trucks and concentrate on residential work. It's awkward when we first see each other at family get-togethers, but we eventually settle into a new routine. After seeing my new home and learning that I had been promoted to commercial division manager, Mom finally stopped trying to guilt-trip me into going back. Even Travis, who occasionally texts me technical questions that I respond to politely, has grown to respect me despite his reluctance. I didn't wake up with a knot in my stomach for the first time in my adult life. I've changed from the fervently devoted son who never received the approval he sought. The physical strain of plumbing work wasn't the biggest weight I've ever carried. It was the emotional burden of attempting to win the respect and affection of those who didn't value me. Retaliation isn't always the reason to leave. It can be the sole route to self-respect at times. I've discovered that the best form of retaliation isn't seeing other people fail after you've left. It is succeeding so thoroughly that your value is determined by your absence. Kevin told me last month that he wants me to manage his second location, which he plans to open in the nearby county. He claims that I could eventually buy him out and turn it into my own business. I find myself visualizing the fleet of trucks, organizing the service area, and creating the logo in my head. Wilson Blue was the only color painted. Not with malice, but because I'm creating something that is genuinely mine at last. My delusional stepdad ruins my $900 prom dress out of spite. Now we're taking him to court for the damage, and the drama unfolds. My delusional stepdad deliberately destroyed my $900 prom dress because I refused to give his golden child son money for his prom outfit. He got what was coming to him. I've never posted here before, but I really need advice because I'm so upset and have no idea what to do. I'm only 17 and not sure if there's any legal action I can take. For some context, I live with my biological mom and her husband since my parents separated and were never married. I originally lived with my dad from the age of 2. He won custody in the custody battle, but he later lost custody after a severe work accident left him paralyzed, making it impossible for him to take care of me. I still see him every weekend and spend the entire summer with him. When I was 10, I moved in with my mom, her husband, and their 2 sons, 1 stepbrother and 1 half-brother. Ever since then, my stepdad has made it clear, both directly and indirectly, that I've disrupted their lives by re-entering my mother's life because I'm just another person they have to take care of. I've been working since 10th grade and have been saving up for my senior year in college since last year with the money from my job. My mom and her husband made it clear that my mom would only help with the basics like my graduation cap and gown, senior dues, and senior class photo. Everything else, like prom, I'd have to pay for myself. I earn about $400 every 2 weeks from my job, which I've been saving entirely. And I make extra money by doing nails, around $100 a week plus tips, which I use for spending money. Since it's my senior year and the last year of high school, I wanted to go all out for prom, so I set an $800 budget for my prom dress. My prom is in April, and I wanted to get my dress early since the really cute ones sell out fast. So, I went prom dress shopping in December and found a gorgeous dress that cost $890. It's dark green with a long train, rhinestones embedded into it, and glitter throughout the fabric. When I first showed my mom and stepdad the dress, they asked how much it was. My mom said she wouldn't pay for a dress that expensive, but I told them it was fine because I had more than enough money saved up to buy it and would still have plenty left, $23,000 to be exact, though only my mom knows that. My mom said I could get the dress and that it was very pretty. However, my stepdad said it was irresponsible and a waste of money, and that I should use it for better things like helping out the family and paying some bills, suggesting I get a cheaper dress for no more than $300. Mind you, both his sons own PS5s and multiple pairs of $200 plus shoes. Long story short, my mom disagreed with him, and I ended up getting the dress. She even contributed $150 toward it. However, ever since then, my stepdad constantly brings up that I should help pay for things around the house since I have so much money to throw away. But my mom always shuts him down, saying that I work hard for my money and that I already help out by paying for Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu bills, while my 18-year-old stepbrother doesn't pay for anything. Last Saturday, we had a huge argument because my stepdad suggested that I should help my stepbrother pay for his prom, to which I firmly said, no. He later called me selfish and said it wasn't fair that I get an expensive outfit while his son doesn't. I guess I responded with some snark, saying, that's not my child or my problem. He then tried to complain to my mom, who sided with me, saying that if anything, he should pay for his own son's prom. Well, today, I woke up from a nap and noticed my prom dress was missing from my closet. It was right at the front, so I immediately noticed it was gone. I asked my stepdad if he'd seen it since my mom was at work, and he told me with a condescending smile that he was washing it. I immediately ran downstairs and saw my dress being washed on the heavy-duty cycle. I canceled it right away, but the damage was done. Most of the rhinestones had fallen off, the glitter had washed out, and the entire dress was mangled. I took one look at it, then threw it in a trash bag and left for my friend's house, taking the dress with me. I texted my mom and sent her pictures, but I'm currently at my friend's house, lying on her bed. Her parents hung the dress outside to air dry so that my stepdad can't blame them if it was dried in the dryer. I know he did this to spite me because he never washes clothes, cooks, or does anything around the house since he considers himself the man of the house, so there was no reason for him to be washing my dress, even if it needed washing. Is there anything I can do? I realize neither of them can replace it, considering their difficult financial situation. I'll keep you all posted when mom gets home. So far my stepdad has called twice, but I haven't picked up, and my mom's at work and unable to take calls. Edit. I'm not sure how to add updates, so I'll just include an edit. My mom and I just spoke on the phone, and she's furious and on her way home. My friend, her dad, and I are heading to my house now, and my mom said she was going to call the cops as soon as she finished talking to me, so they might be there by the time I arrive. We've taken pictures, and my uncle, who is my mom's brother, will be over by 8 because I contacted him while he was at work. I've been considering your suggestions about withdrawing my money from my account, and I discussed it with my dad, who told me I could stay with him. Edit/update 2. When I got home, my friend stayed in the car while her dad walked me in, and my stepdad was already gone. However, the police were at the house. As of now, the police said they couldn't really arrest him because it's not like he technically stole anything. It's hard to explain, but basically, they said that because he washed the dress and didn't keep it, it's not considered theft. They suggested I could get a confession and have him pay or take him to small claims court. Also, the dress is non-refundable if damaged, so I can't return it or anything. While explaining everything to my mom, I got flustered and started crying. And she hugged me as I cried and told me that he's going to pay for this. This financial issue has been an ongoing argument, and I think he just pushed her too far this time because she's really angry. I also talked to my uncle, and he's off work and on his way over. Apparently, my uncle and stepdad have a rocky history since my stepdad has mouthed off to him in the past. When I explained what happened, my uncle reassured me that everything would be okay, and if needed, he would buy back the dress before it sells out, so I'll still have it for prom. He does expect my stepdad to pay me back one way or another, so it looks like I'll probably end up with my dress for free. Maybe that's a small victory. I'll likely update more later tonight, but things seem to be heading in the right direction. Edit. To clear up any confusion, I pay for the streaming service bills because I really want to watch the shows on those platforms, and my mom works hard but doesn't earn enough to afford those services on top of everything else. So I offered to pay for them so we could have them. She's not the kind of mother who would pick her husband over me, and she always defends me. My stepdad has never pulled a stunt like this before. He just tries to convince her to control my money and savings, but she's never touched my savings. I feel like that's why they always clash, because he has this mindset that, we have all these financial troubles, and your daughter could solve them with her savings, and you have access to them. My uncle came over, and he and my mom had a bit of an argument because he blamed her for enabling my stepdad's behavior by not leaving him, which he thinks is why my stepdad felt comfortable doing what he did. She argued back, saying she's always defended me against him and has never taken any of my money. Which is true. We all talked about it for a while, and she revealed that they actually had an argument last night about paying off a car payment. She mentioned how all these bills are wearing her down, and he responded by saying it wouldn't be such a burden if she used my savings and didn't let me spend it on foolishness. She got angry and defensive because he keeps bringing it up. He also pointed out that the $900 I spent on my dress could have covered the car payment for the next 2 months. By the way, he only knows about my savings because he knows how much I get paid and that I've been saving all of it, so we think that's what triggered him to throw my dress in the washer. My mom and stepdad have been texting back and forth, and he admitted that he washed the dress to teach me a lesson about not spending so much money on something that can be ruined so easily. But he deliberately set the washer to heavy duty, so it's clear he intended to destroy it. My uncle has offered to replace the dress, so I don't need to worry about not having my special dress. We called the boutique and explained everything, and they said they could order another dress, though it won't arrive until February 23rd, which is fine. My mom sent my stepdad a long, threatening message basically calling him out. She's really heated right now, so I'm going to try to ask for a screenshot later. She and my dad also talked and decided it would be best if I got my own bank account so that my stepdad can't use the excuse that she has access to my account, which is also great. My mom and I had a discussion about what's going to happen next, and she said she's not sure yet because it's all a bit overwhelming for her. She's seriously considering leaving him, but I guess she doesn't want to talk about that just yet. My stepdad is currently staying at a friend's house. I'll keep updating, and I might have another one tomorrow. My friend's parents are going to keep the dress at their house, and I'll pick it up tomorrow to have as proof. My uncle has wired me $1,000 for my prom dress, and I'm planning to use the money to replace the dress and buy new shoes. He's quite well off, which is one of the reasons I reached out to him in the first place. I'm going to call the boutique and see if they can reorder the dress, and I'll just pick it up sometime in February. However, we still want my stepdad to pay in some way, and we're working on that. My uncle has also called my other uncles and aunts, with my permission, to vent about the situation, so now most of my mom's side of the family, who all live in Georgia, are aware of what happened. I woke up to a flood of texts expressing sympathy and even some offers of money for prom, which have added up to about $300. So that's a positive outcome. My mom also contacted my step-in-laws, who then spread the news, complete with pictures, and I guess most of them are shocked, except for his mother, who is still buying his excuse that it's just a dress and it was an accident, despite the evidence. I also got a call from my stepdad's sister, who expressed sympathy, and through our conversations, I learned that my stepdad has been asking a lot of his family for financial help because, for some reason, he's bought so many things on credit that he can't keep up with the payments. My mom called my stepdad for answers, which we recorded, and he's basically trying to blame her, saying that if she hadn't pissed him off last night, he wouldn't have done it. He claimed he was trying to teach me a lesson about being responsible with money and that he had planned to lecture me afterward. My mom has now broken up with him because he blamed her for caring more about me than him, which is bizarre. This led to an argument where my mom said, "You think I care about her more than you? Well, you're about to see just how much I do." Their relationship had already been rocky because he can't manage money, and this was the final straw for her. So a lot has happened. First off, we've placed an order for my dress and it's being shipped now. It should arrive at the boutique by February 23rd, so that's sorted. My stepdad and mom are officially broken up, but my mom isn't sure yet if she'll proceed with the divorce because everything is still so fresh, and lawyers are expensive, and she can't afford it right now. They also have a prenup, so they don't share any assets, and the house is my mom's. It was her dad's house that she inherited. She had a different dad from her siblings, who all share the same father. My stepdad came back with his brother after a while and tried to make up for everything by buying me a new dress from Macy's that's similar in color and length to the original, but it's very tacky and ugly and looks nothing like the dress I originally had. He then tried to apologize, saying it wasn't his intention to ruin the dress and that he was just going to wash it to make a point, like, "See, this is why you don't buy things like this." And then he would have bought me another dress. But that explanation makes no sense at all. My uncle also came back to the house after I texted him that my stepdad had returned. My uncle was at the store when he got my message, and when he arrived, they got into a huge argument. My uncle demanded to know why my stepdad destroyed the dress, but my stepdad said he wasn't going to let anyone walk into his house and start making demands. My uncle called him a name, and my stepdad told him to say it again. So he did, and they ended up fighting. My stepdad lost the fight and then threatened to call the cops, but we reminded him that he swung first. After that, he went on a rant, cussed us out, and left, taking the dress with him. We're actually planning to follow your advice and take him to small claims court, considering the evidence and the damage. Hopefully, we'll come out on top. Right now, my stepdad is staying at his parents' house. For those curious about my brothers, here's an update. My 15-year-old half-brother was at his girlfriend's house since Friday, so he missed all the drama, but he reached out to me today. I love him so much. My 18-year-old stepbrother, on the other hand, has basically taken his dad's side, so there's not much more to say about that. Also, for those who suggested changing the streaming passwords, I've done that, and my mom and I are going to set up a new bank account for me later today. Thanks so much for all the support. I'll keep you updated as we make plans and hopefully get a favorable verdict. Now to the next story, Story 2. My wife overreacts to our daughter's minor injuries, causing strain in our parenting and increasing tension within the family. My 28F wife, 26F Sophia takes every scratch our daughters, 7 and 5, get extremely seriously. Every bruise, every scraped knee, every cut is an emergency to her. And because they're emergencies to her, they become emergencies to the girls. Not only does this mean it's hard to tell when an injury is actually dangerous, did she twist her ankle, or break it? Is her arm bruised, or fractured? But the kids are responding badly to any hurt they feel now. At the mere sight of blood, the 7 starts wailing like she's been stabbed. Even worse, her sister has started intentionally banging her arm into things or falling on concrete if she thinks she's not getting enough attention. Last week my wife took the oldest one to urgent care because she got a canker sore and Sophia was convinced it was something more sinister. While she was gone, I had the younger one, who was upset that Sophia had spent so long on her sister and had now taken her to the doctor to get special attention. So she threw herself on the tile floor in front of me and started screaming and holding the wrist she hadn't actually twisted. I'm so tired of all of this, I just let her scream. When I didn't give her the attention she wanted, her screaming in pain turned into sobbing because I wasn't cuddling her and kissing her better and promising her cookies and a late bedtime. I told her I'd be in the den with the cats when she felt like joining us. I felt like a bitch for letting her cry herself out, but she's never going to learn to walk off scooter falls or getting hit with dodgeballs at this rate, and she can't be rewarded for this kind of behavior. It's just not healthy. Eventually she ran out of tears and came to sit with us and I let her have a watered-down soda. Well, when Sophia got back with the older kid, who now had the same numbing gel we already had in the cabinet and $200 urgent care bill, our younger daughter told her what happened and now she's furious at me for ignoring something that could have been serious. I told her she's the one making mountains out of molehills and feeding into the actual dangerous behavior. We've been fighting about it all week and the kids have only been acting up more as a result. I'm so tired of this. Maybe my appendix will burst and I can spend a few nights in the hospital away from this insanity. Relevant comments. OP on if her wife had PPD when she got pregnant and gave birth. Did her wife have any medical trauma? OP. No and no. Both of them were adopted, and to the best of my knowledge she's never had negative doctor experiences. If she had, it wouldn't make sense to keep dragging the girls in for scratch knees. She's absolutely setting them up for failure, she just refuses to see that. If someone here can convince her to see a therapist, or an ounce of reason related to this specific situation, then they're miracle workers. She's great in almost every other aspect, I love her, but the constant coddling and panicking is getting ridiculous. Did OP and her wife have infertility problems? OP, no? As far as I know, both of us were perfectly healthy reproductively speaking. All pregnancy is dangerous and IVFs usually result in multiples, increasing the risks or forcing termination of it doesn't take right. And they're ridiculously expensive. A lot of places aren't exactly trustworthy when it comes to ensuring the health of sperm donors, etc. There wasn't a chance in hell I was ever carrying children, so that was out. She never fought to carry them. When we decided we wanted kids and we were in a place that it was feasible, we looking for agencies and found our girls. OP on the relationship her wife has with their daughters and if she's overprotective. OP, We've had long talks that always dissolve into arguments over the subject before. As I understand it, she really sees nothing wrong with what she's doing. She wants to make the girls feel like they'll be seen and taken care of. But she's going too far. She does spend time with them regularly. She has an office job and has them alone from 6 p.m. onwards on days when I work, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And she doesn't work on weekends at all. But yes, the younger one has definitely learned that making it look like she's hurt herself, or actually hurting herself, however minor, is a surefire way of getting Madre's attention. Not sure I helped last week. I don't want her thinking Mama doesn't care, but I just could not bring myself to reward her pretending to be hurt. That's an interesting idea. It might help the girls, although I don't see it changing Sophia's behavior much. Update. Wow, my first post got more popular than I was expecting. Not a full update, but a few people were curious, so I thought I'd throw this out there with some of this week's developments and some clarifications. This sub only allows 2 updates, so the next one, if I end up publishing it, probably won't be anytime soon. TLDR, my 28F wife, 26F, has been making our daughter's injuries worse by treating all of them like an emergency. This has led to the older one, 7, to genuinely believe that every injury could be fatal, and the younger one, 5, to realize that if she's hurt she gets special things like cookies, candy, extended bedtimes, movies, etc. And is the main source of conflict in our marriage. Clarifications. 1. This is not Munchausen by proxy. Y'all have got to lay off the Hulu docuseries and stop trying to diagnose strangers with serious and sinister medical issues based on one post written by their annoyed spouse. My wife does not hurt them. She is not poisoning them, or looking for drugs to feed them, or posting all over social media about how great she is and how lucky the girls are, etc., 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 or trying to scam people out of money or a Habitat for Humanity house. Sophia is not worrying for the attention of it. She is trying to ensure that they don't feel ignored and neglected, to the point that she takes everything that they say seriously, but she's gone too far and it is now backfiring. The few people who pointed out that the younger's behavior of faking injuries or actually giving herself a bruise could develop into something more serious are correct, however, which is a concern that I also have. 2. Attention. The girls get attention. They get plenty of attention from both of us. They are not being neglected to the point that they need to injure themselves as a cry for help. For one thing, my older daughter doesn't do that. She is just genuinely convinced that bruises could be internal bleeding and any bump on the head could be a concussion. Which means that I'm going to have to give her the period talk pretty soon, or she's going to think she's dying if she starts early. For another thing, the younger one tends to only do it when she thinks her sister is getting something she wants, or we said no earlier in the day. They get attention, but they get special attention when they're sick or hurt. Someone in the comments last time, don't remember the name, suggested flipping it to discourage the younger girl's behavior, by essentially taking away fun things and forcing them to rest when they're sick or hurt. A few other people suggest pain charts of some variety, or first aid classes. Those might help with the older one and Sophia herself. That was probably the most viable advice I got, however well-meaning and true a lot of other stuff was. 3. Therapy right now is not an option. You can suggest it all you want, I can and have suggested all I want, but as of right now it will not be happening anytime soon. We had a bad experience with a highly regarded adoption specialist therapist a few years ago that resulted in our older daughter having more issues with her adoption than she did when we started, issues that we've had to figure out how to manage on our own because the 2 therapists we tried after that only compounded and exacerbated those new issues. My daughter would have been better off if she'd never been to therapy in the first place. As a result, my wife has lost almost all of her faith in mental health professionals. Quite frankly, I lost the majority of mine as well. And while I've made mention of it to Sophia, my bigger focus is on getting her to just change this one behavior. 4. Was my wife traumatized as a child by being medically neglected? To the best of my knowledge, no. She doesn't have any long-term health issues, and she was never very involved in any physical and potentially dangerous sports when we were in school. Her family hasn't suffered from very many illnesses or accidents, even during COVID. So while I've driven myself to an emergency dentist before and broken my wrist without even knowing it, the only time she's ever been in a hospital was to pick her dad up from a colonoscopy. At least before she started taking our daughters in for benign bumps, bruises, and cuts. 5. No, my wife does not have anything postpartum. The actual update. After a couple of other comments brought up how my girls behave away from us, I decided to ask. My wife works a normal 9-5, while I work 3/12s from 6 p.m. to a.m. on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. During the winter they have school and daycare respectively. This winter the younger one will be in kindergarten though, and during the summer they both go to daycare from about 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on my workdays, and just in the mornings on other days as needed. I do drop-offs and pickups. When I picked them up on Monday, I decided to ask one of the caretakers how the girls had been behaving. She told me they were fine. They bickered sometimes, but there was nothing unusual going on. I asked what happens when they get hurt or feel sick during the day, how they handle it, etc. I didn't tell them about my wife. I didn't want to be telling tales out of, or at, school. I think she might have thought I was looking for help, which I was technically, because she told me that as soon as a kid falls down, or takes a ball to the face or anything else, they start the whole interaction by telling them you're okay, and assessing the damage calmly as they approach. Even if the kid is bleeding, they don't react. They say something like, "Wow, that looked kind of scary. I bet it surprised you. Let's see your arm/leg/whatever." She basically wrote me a script. I asked her how my girls reacted to it, and she told me that the older one was a little more sensitive than her peers. She cried easily, and they had to be extra firm with the "you're okays" with her. The younger one she saw a little less. She's in a different age bracket. She only just turned 5, so she's still technically in the pre-K group. But she'd never heard anything about her. I asked what exactly they do if a kid is bleeding or bruised. For bruises, they can sit with a little ice pack for 15 minutes before they need to come back to the ground, unless it's actually serious. And for cuts, they get it washed and a band-aid. So nothing exciting as far as I could tell. The fact that we haven't been called into the school to pick up our totally terribly injured 5-year-old before tells me that she knows she won't get Madre's special treatment at the school. And since I will be the one picking her up if they think she's too sick or something, there's really no point in kicking up too much of a fuss unless she just wants to hold something cold for a few minutes. Neither of the girls have been hurt or sick this week. We stopped arguing, because I frankly do not have the energy to do so constantly. I'll look into the pain chart and first aid classes and bring up boring damage mitigation soon, once we've both had time to calm down. Additional information from OP, I'm going to put this here, since apparently it needs to be said. I am aware that saying it's okay or you're okay the way the daycare workers do is a good idea. This is what I have been trying to implement for a long time. Even if a child is genuinely hurt, adults need to remain calm to keep the child calm. If an adult is upset, then the already upset kid will become more upset, and if that kid isn't upset, then they will be when they see their parents freaking out. I am not looking for excitement. I genuinely have no idea how you read my post and got that impression. None. If I'm playing checkers, you've started a game of chess. I am trying to end the excitement. When I said nothing exciting in my post, it was not because I don't want to implement something boring, it's because I do. I very much want my kids being hurt to stop being exciting or rewarding. That is the entire point of everything here. Of a week of arguing, of every other argument before this one. There was no one working up my older daughter. The younger one wasn't getting rewarded. If anything, being hurt at daycare got her essentially a timeout with an ice pack, or rubbing alcohol and a pat on the back. That is a good thing. That is what I want. OP on communicating with her wife about their daughters on how to react if they got hurt. OP, I've talked with her a lot about it. It used to start when she was already working up because one of the girls was hurt or something, and I'd try to calm her down and help the girls calm down. She'd be so keyed up that it would turn into a fight fast. So after a while I stopped trying to interfere at the time, because us arguing while one girl and inevitably the other cried wasn't exactly helpful. After that I started waiting until after all of the excitement of the emergency had passed by to bring it up. Especially when the younger girl started intentionally falling or bumping into things. I'd try to tell her that making a huge deal out of every scrape was just making things worse and the girls needed to figure out how to self-regulate and tell if they were actually hurt or not. She would accuse me of being callous and tell me she wasn't going to make our daughters feel helpless, hurt and abandoned. And no matter how hard either of us tried, is dissolved into another argument. After discovering my husband's autism and kitty food preference, I faced deceit and marital stress, leading to my decision to divorce. Well, it's been a lot longer than the 1-week update I promised. I could make excuses, but I won't. For those of you who don't want to read my original post, I asked for help with my husband's food preference issues, and through talking with many people on here and, ultimately, his mother, it was revealed that he was diagnosed with autism as a child. Some of the comments on my original post were not so kind. I got a lot of accusations that still hurt me. Some just make me angry, particularly the person who commented simply, "Please don't bully him. He's my goddamn husband. Not a schoolyard friend, not a sibling, not a child. Infantilizing him doesn't help his case at all." Moving on. I was very upset as he had never mentioned anything to me. We've discussed all sorts of medical issues together, but his diagnosis never came up. I want to stress this. This isn't a matter of me not wanting to be married to an autistic man. This is a matter of my husband keeping something important from me and causing me a great deal of stress that could have been avoided if I was aware of his diagnosis. For example, I continuously pushed him to try new foods or attend concerts or visit loud amusement parks. I knew he wasn't particularly thrilled about any of those things, but they are all very normal couple activities that I wanted us to experience together. Had I been aware of his autism, I would have had a better understanding of how negatively these things affected him, and made more of an effort to integrate things he liked with things I liked, maybe a smaller local band, or a craft fair instead of an amusement park. Anyways, that's the backstory. Read below for the update. Update. I confronted him about my conversation with his mother the night before our counseling appointment. I made sure to bring it up casually so I didn't become angry again. He tried to brush me off at first, saying he didn't know what I was talking about. After talking for a bit, he eventually confessed that he not only knew of the diagnosis but deliberately kept it from me. He said I was his dream and he didn't want to do anything to ruin our perfect relationship. I explained how him keeping this from me hurt me. I explained how I could have been there to support him instead of feeling like he needed to hide. He said he wasn't ashamed of it at all. He explained that it's just not something that affects him anymore. I, again, explained how it affects me, but he didn't seem to care. I didn't show him the post I made, but I used some of the advice from you all to try to explain why his autism really does in fact still affect his life. We went to bed upset. The next day he acted like nothing happened. We ate breakfast, he had chicken nuggets, and went about our day. I kept expecting him to bring it up, but he never did. I didn't have the nerve to bring it up again until later at the marriage counselor's office. I spoke to the counselor so as not to seem accusing and explained that this was an issue that bothered me. My husband actually laughed and said he assumed I'd gotten over it by now. When I explained that no, I really hadn't, he got angry with me and stormed out. The counselor tried to mediate, but it wasn't much use as my husband went to wait in the car. I was worried he'd leave without me, so I cut the meeting short. Our ride home was quiet. It wasn't until we got home that I said I was worried he was keeping other things from me too. He said he'd been reading online about how women can't understand autism and therefore he didn't think it was important to tell me about it. I said that was the weakest excuse I'd ever heard. He then said that I'd leave him if I knew. I said if I left him it'd be because he's a liar. Apparently he told all of our mutual friends that he'd just been diagnosed with autism and I was considering leaving him because of it. Now many of our friends won't talk to me and act very cold when we run into each other in public. I don't know what else he's told them, but I think he told someone I cheated on him as a fake account has been commenting horrible things about me and my supposed sexual habits on all of my Instagram posts. I keep reporting them, but then it seems like another just pops up in its place. I haven't decided if divorce is the right path. I know he's been browsing incel and other bitter male-centric websites. One of his friends is a self-described incel, so I'm even more convinced that this isn't the man I married. I'm mostly just confused. I've been avoiding him at home and it feels like more of a roommate situation at this point. He doesn't really leave his den until it's time for work, and then he's back in the den until bed. It seems like everything is messed up, just from me wanting to help. I don't even know what to expect at this point, much less how to move on from here. Edit. There are so many more comments than I anticipated. I'm trying to at least read through most of them, although I think I'm past my emotional ability to reply. I'm really shocked at how overwhelmingly supportive people are. Thank you. I'm going to be discussing divorce with a lawyer. I don't know how to bring it up with him, but I'm past the point of caring. You're all right. I dread coming home to him in the evenings. I dread if he will miraculously want to talk. This isn't healthy for either of us. At the very least, some time apart would be good. That's all for now. I don't think I'll update past this as I'm already uncomfortable with how quickly this blew up. But I will be living elsewhere by the end of the month. Now to the next story, story 2. My wife will not shut up and I'm not sure I can take it that much longer. Is it possible for that to be a reason to leave? I'm not sure if I should have posted this on AI instead. But here goes. My wife will not shut up. I'm not talking about your usual chatty Kathy. I mean she almost literally will not shut up. She will talk continuously from the moment she knows I am within earshot. Not just in the same room. I mean as soon as it's reasonable to assume that I can hear her. She will not stop talking until I'm gone, and sometimes not even then. On more than one occasion, I've gone into the bathroom, turned on the loud exhaust fan, taken a leisurely dump and then returned to hear her cheerfully engaged in the same conversation she was enjoying before I went in. She also refuses to use the exhaust fan while she's in the restroom because it would prevent her from being heard. So I get to hear all the bathroom noises on top of whatever Homeric epic about her friend's cousin's girlfriend's hairdresser she's blathering on about. I once drove from Tampa, Florida to Chicago, Illinois with her, before we were married. I'm such an idiot. Without saying more than 10 sentences. She did not stop talking the entire way. The entire way. Television onto a show I like? Pfft, that's not a problem. She'll happily turn the volume down so it doesn't get in the way. Having sex? That's the perfect time to tell me about how Olivia Newton-John still has the leather pants she wore in Greece and she, brace yourself, still fits in them. Really? Needless to say, we don't go to the movies. Ever. I've been shushed out of too many theaters. I get it. She grew up in a huge Italian Catholic family in the Bronx. If you don't talk loud and constantly, you don't get to talk at all. I, on the other hand, grew up in a Scandinavian family with 2 children. To this day, I'm not sure we ever had a conversation in our house. I actually often wonder if that's what made me attractive to her. I was taught to politely listen to people and then wait for them to finish before replying. She never finishes, or takes a breath it sometimes seems. So to her I'm paying rapt attention to her no matter how much she talks. That's not true though. Another difference between people of Swedish heritage is that we don't use filler words for acknowledgement. Other than the Minnesota nah, useful on every occasion, we're pretty much silent when we listen to others. No or yeah or OMG needed. A nod of the head every 10 minutes or so is all you need to convey your attentiveness. I think it has a lot to with living in the frigid north. You keep your mouth open as much as my wife does, and your teeth are going to shatter from the cold. To her, that's like being in the room with a dead person. She's always stopping to ask, are you even listening? Or say, you never pay attention to me. Or even quiz me with, what did I just say? I've become an expert at storing the last 2 to 4 words she says and parroting them back at her. She'll be like, blah blah blah. And then she told him she wasn't taking that kind of crap anymore. And I'll go, that kind of crap. As if I had any idea what kind of crap it was or who it was that wouldn't take it anymore. And she'll say yeah, and think I've been paying attention the whole time. I joke about it a lot, but it's actually getting to the point where it's a problem. Our son is 7 years old, and he has developed a pronounced stutter because she interrupts him constantly. Growing up in her house, if anyone paused even for a millisecond, that was grounds for talking over them. And you talked loud so they didn't finish. My son apparently inherited some of my less staccato speech patterns, and she basically just uses that to interrupt and take over the conversation. It got so bad that he started automatically stopping and restarting words, even when not being interrupted. I didn't know that was considered a stutter until we went to one of those parent-teacher night things, and a teacher listened to wife and then turned to me and said, well, at least now I know why Josh has a stutter. Just like that. She's failed at least one job interview because of this. I know because I lined it up with a business acquaintance myself. He called me up and said sorry, but he just couldn't take being in the same room with her because she wouldn't stop talking. We rarely are invited for a second couple's date. She monopolizes the conversation every time we go out with other people. Who wants more than one does of that? You're probably wondering, well, have you told her about this? Yes. Many times. Sometimes jokingly. Sometimes with utter seriousness. The reactions vary from anger, talks louder, higher, faster, and uses lots more swear words, to tears. She's the only person I know who can carry on a totally unrelated conversation while sobbing hysterically. The one thing that doesn't happen is her talking any less. I try not to let it get to me. She's a very affectionate woman. Loves me to death. Mother of my child. Pretty as the day we met, prettier even. We still get plenty of alone time. Granted, she won't shut up while we're doing it, but I'm pretty busy so I don't really notice as much. But it does get to me. It's selfish and shows a lack of self-awareness. There's a time and a place for enthusiastic conversation, and they're not always and everywhere. I know the answer to the problem. I have to talk back. In effect, the only thing that possibly could shut her up is for me to do the same thing as she does. I would have to interrupt at the slightest pause. I would have to talk louder, yelling if necessary, when she tries to interrupt me. I would have to learn to use Italian hand gestures to emphasize my points and chop off her objections. But I'm not Italian. I'm a waspy pale dude who grew up in a household that would have made a mortuary sound like a middle school cafeteria. 12 years of this has finally pushed me to the brink. I'm not sure I can take it that much longer. I'm just not sure if I could get a word in to tell the judge why I'm there in his divorce court. My wife wouldn't let me. TL.dr. Wife will not shut up. Is that reasonable grounds for leaving her? Edit, obligatory Reddit, OMG, I had no idea this would blow up. Which is true, I thought maybe a couple of people would just call me an asshole and that would be it. But RIP, inbox. It was nice to know you. So in the interest of not replying to every comment, I will try to address some of the common ones and answer some of the questions I saw popping up multiple times. Also thanks for the, often hilarious, advice. Q1. Is this BS? Implied. A1. No, it's all mostly true. I admit to some embellishment for dramatic comedic effect though. The bit about the leather pants is representative, not an actual quote. Not from sexy times anyway. She probably mentioned it at some point though. Q2. Why didn't you run away screaming before you got married? Sub-question. Was OP's wife hot? A2. Yes, she is hot, and funny, and vivacious. Also, I really was a Nordic silent bear. Thanks, you/Sarah_Dragonfire, my wife drew me out of my shell. And if I'm brutally honest with myself, when you're young and getting laid on the regular, a lot of things don't seem all that terrible. Damn you penis, this is all your fault. Q3. Did your kid really develop a stutter because of this? A3. Medically speaking, I cannot state this with 100% certainty. The cause was never formally diagnosed. However, I watched it happen firsthand. I'm not a qualified speech therapist, but I think it was a reasonable conclusion to draw based on the observations I made. I'd welcome a dissenting opinion from an actual professional though, if only to salve my conscience. Which leads to, Q4. Aren't you really the one responsible for your kid's stutter? After all, you did nothing to stop it. A4. Guilty. And I feel utterly like shit about it all the time. For the record, I did bring it up lots of times, even to the point of getting into arguments about it and speaking harshly to my wife when she interrupted my son. But I think by the time I realized it was happening, most of the damage was done. And anything I could do was more expressing my anger about it than actually making an effective change. All the rest of this weirdly long post is just ranting. If there's an actual justification for leaving, this is it, and I'm deathly afraid that she'll get full custody and just make it worse or even irreparable. Q5. Is it because she's, pick one, OCD, insecure, autistic, mentally ill? A5. I don't think so, although I've always sensed an overwhelming need for attention. I see it in her family dynamic, in that all of her many siblings were in constant competition for their parents' attention and affection. Q6. Have you tried counseling? A6. No, probably should have, but I know her well enough that even mentioning it would shatter her. It's bizarre that I can't bring myself to do a lot of things people have suggested, and believe me, I've probably thought of all of them, because they just seem too cruel to me. And yet, I'm seriously considering divorce. I realize the contradiction there. Am I the A for not letting my stepson 12 live with us? I don't want anyone to interfere in my life, and the child is unnecessary in my marriage. I have 2 boys, 10 male and 5 male, and I'm getting married in the next few weeks to my boyfriend who has a 12 son from a previous relationship. My future husband's son asked his dad if he could come live with us after we get married because he wants to experience a genuine family dynamic with parents and siblings, given that his biological parents never married anyone else. My husband is on board with this idea, believing it would contribute positively to the boy's personal growth. I expressed to my husband that I have reservations about having him live with us, based on observations during the weekends he spends at our place. Firstly, he appears to have a strained relationship with my younger son. He rarely includes him in activities unless I specifically prompt him to do so. When I ask him to assist the younger boy, such as accompanying him to the bathroom, he does so with obvious reluctance. Secondly, he displays an excessive competitive streak towards my older son. He consistently aims to outperform him, and even taunts him when he succeeds. I find this overly competitive atmosphere uncomfortable. I desire my children to grow up in a nurturing and supportive environment. The third and most significant concern is his academic and behavioral performance. My boyfriend has informed me that his son has been struggling academically and has faced minor behavioral challenges. I am concerned about his potential negative influence on my children, particularly my older son. My husband dismisses these concerns as typical for his age, believing that with our guidance, he could improve. I sought advice from my mother, and she disagrees with me, asserting that providing a united family environment could greatly benefit my stepson. Both of them label my reasons as unreasonable. Am I the A? Edit. Many people didn't quite catch the bathroom example I provided. Let's say we're at a park. I can't let my 5-year-old go to the bathroom alone. So I might have my stepson accompany him for safety reasons. It's the kind of thing an older child should do for a younger one. Update. I know that I am not the best person, but I never mistreated or ignored my future stepson. I care for him, and I would never think of hurting him. I realize now that I was being overly protective of my own children and not considering things from my future stepson's perspective. I was afraid that my future stepson might bully my kids. For example, excluding the younger one from activities he enjoys like building with Legos or teasing the older one when he wins, but now I can see that if he wants to live with us, it's because he cares about his future siblings. Moreover, as a responsible adult, I understand that I have an obligation to help him with behavior and school grades. I talked to my boyfriend, and I accept that he can come live with us. Now we'll need to move to a new house so that each child can have their own room, and we'll have to work on getting custody. Relevant comments. Info on stepson's mom. Unfortunately, my stepson is the result of a one-night relationship, not a marriage. My fiancé said he even tried to have a dating or more serious relationship with her, but she declined. She has always had custody of the boy, and she has never been married. It's just her and the boy. I work remotely, so even though I have work obligations, I'll be the one providing more assistance to the children. I don't see it as a problem, even with one more child. He lives with his mom, who has full custody. He seeks my fiancé to ask if he can live with us because he wants to have a family with siblings. I don't know his mom very well. I only met her a few times, like on his birthday. After the update, we're going to talk to him and his mom tonight. I'm going to tell him that our house is his home, and he's more than welcome here. We're going to say that we are even planning to move to a new house to give him his own room. But it also depends on the conversation with his mom. My fiancé thinks we won't have any issues. OP is voted you're the A. This sums up the majority opinion well. You're the A. You're marrying his father, so you should start considering him as your son as well. If your eldest son, 10 male, started displaying all these behaviors, then surely you wouldn't just kick him out and give up on him. I would get your BF on board with ways to deal with the behaviors that you're not happy with. Update post. I initially want to thank the comments that helped me understand that I was in the wrong. I learned that I was being extremely selfish, only looking out for my own children and my fear that they might somehow face bullying at home, but I wasn't considering the feelings of my stepson. I've also learned that the dynamics between siblings, something I never experienced, inevitably involve a bit of competition and rivalry. I was so focused on myself and my kids that I couldn't see that if he wants to live with us, then obviously he cares about us, especially the idea of having siblings. So I hope we will work together to build a great dynamic in our house. I talked to my fiancé, even showed him this Reddit post, and told him that I agree our stepson should live with us, that I was wrong about my reservations concerning the boy. He talked to the mother of my stepson, who has legal custody of him. I didn't participate in the conversation, as I understand it's a moment for the biological parents. Despite being reluctant, after hearing from her own child that he wanted to live with us, she agreed to work out an arrangement where he will spend a significant amount of time with us. My fiancé and the boy's mother will still have to discuss the details. After that, my fiancé and I took my stepson out to eat his favorite burger and talked. I told him that we're happy to have him as a new member of our household, that we're going to look for a new house to better accommodate the family now that we'll be 5, and he can have his own room. He was very happy. We didn't address some concerns that I still have, like the issue of discipline and following rules. I avoided that topic so it doesn't seem like I'm threatening him to go back to living with his mom. I want him to feel accepted unconditionally in our home. But of course, we'll have that conversation about discipline with the older two soon to prevent any issues, and also emphasize the importance of maintaining good grades in school. P.S. There's no need for anyone here to send me messages cursing me out. I've received dozens of offensive messages, and it doesn't help anyone. I've also received supportive messages with advice, and I appreciate those messages. The internet and this community don't need to be a place for hate. Relevant comments. You need to discuss discipline as soon as possible to be on the same page. I'm aware of that. This issue has always been one of the key points for me. I always believe that when a child is disciplined by a step-parent, they might perceive it as unfair, which can significantly impact the relationship between the child and the step-parent. However, we've discussed making a list of rules and the corresponding consequences for breaking each rule, so I hope that no one feels unjustly treated. If something comes up that isn't on the list, then the decision will need to be a joint one between me and my fiancé. OP's stance. I've always told my fiancé that if my stepson came to live with us, then it would be for the rest of our lives, as my stepson isn't an object that we can return for some reason. I've always had that very clear. He was always a member of the household, you're the new one. Honestly, I think the issue here is just the choice of words. When I said member of our household, my fiancé and my stepson understood that I was referring to him becoming a new resident of the house, as he didn't live here before. Regardless of whether you agree or not, the fact is that he lived at his mother's house, and in practice was a visitor at ours. Of course, I did everything to make him feel that our house was also his, but there's a difference between living here and spending weekends. I never meant to say that he wasn't a part of the family. I've always treated him as a family member. This is a part I haven't quite grasped yet. Many people talk as if I treat my stepson poorly. When my husband read the comments on the other post, he told me not to worry, because I treat his son very well, and I think it's obvious that if I mistreated him, he wouldn't want to live with me. So, where does this idea come from that I treat him poorly? I know that when I said that I didn't want him living with us sounds rude. But there is a huge difference between how you treat a kid and what you discuss with your fiancé. Further info on the housing situation. It's still his own house. I completely agree with this, which is why I mentioned that I did everything to make him feel like the house was his too. But there's an aspect I didn't mention, and perhaps it's another reason for my choice of words. My fiancé is moving into the house I live in with my kids, so chronologically, it makes sense for me to refer to it as my house, and say that my stepson is a new member of it. Of course, from his perspective, we are the new members of his family. Child's perspective is very different and very insightful. Yes, that's true. The best I can do is treat my stepson the same way I treat my own children. And I don't believe there have been any instances where I treated him differently. In fact, I realized I was expecting behaviors from him similar to those of my older son, without considering his different experiences, which made me unfair to him. Does stepson have his own room? Are you spending enough time with him? This is a very important point. I completely agree that it's crucial for children of divorced parents to understand that they have two homes, and to have their personal belongings in both. The thing is, we've been gradually adapting over time. First I got to know my stepson, then he got to know my kids, and then they started spending more time together, until it got to the point where he practically spends every weekend here, even though legally, my fiancé only has custody every other weekend. He always had his things at his dad's house. But my house is bigger and my fiancé is moving in here. Unfortunately, my house only has 3 bedrooms, mine and 1 for each child. So he was left without his own space. When he comes over, he has to sleep in my older son's room. So in reality, he's been kind of like a visitor, you know? That's the reason I'm looking for another house. I want to give him his own space, just like my kids have theirs. Yes. I understand that my stepson isn't in the best situation right now. We were already looking to move to a new house after getting married, regardless of whether he would come to live with us or not, precisely because of this issue. But we were both planning to sell our houses to buy the new one, so it would still take several months. Now, we'll be renting a house in the next few weeks. Since we were already exploring the real estate market, we already know of a house that we like. Clarifying the bathroom example above. I never used him for free childcare. I was unfortunate in the example I gave about the bathroom. But I'll explain again what happens. We have a young child who's 5 years old. I can't expect a 5-year-old to behave in a mature appropriate manner at all times, but I can expect the older ones, aged 10 and 12, to understand that the 5-year-old is a little child who doesn't yet grasp various situations. So, for instance, if the older two are playing video games for an hour without letting the little one join in, it's obvious they need to stop and let the little one play a bit too. Otherwise, the little one will feel sad and angry, think that his siblings don't like him, and so on. I'm not asking them to play with the little one all the time, but to look at the situation from the little one's perspective so as not to hurt him. In the bathroom situation I mentioned last time, it was just me, my stepson, and my youngest son. When my youngest son is with any of the boys, he refuses to go to the bathroom with me. That day, he was practically on the verge of tears, not wanting to go with me and wanting to go with his brother. So in my view, my stepson, upon seeing the boy almost in tears over a trivial situation, should have understood he should help to prevent him from actually crying. But he only helped after I insisted a lot. Anyway, I believe my stepson will grasp this dynamic soon, just like my older son already does. You need to adjust your expectations. You need to adjust your expectations. You are correct. Now to the next story, story 2. I have had enough of my stepdaughter, so I moved back to my parents with my son. I'm also 8W pregnant and I don't know what to do. Update. Hi everyone. I don't know if this is even ethical because it's about a minor. I will keep it anonymous and hope for the best. I am at the end of my tether here and I feel paralyzed and in desperate need of advice. I, female 38, met my husband, male 44, about 4 years ago. I'm 8 weeks pregnant, only husband and I know. I have a son, male 8 with my BF who passed away in a car accident before my son was born. My husband has a daughter, female 13, stepdaughter for stepdaughter, from a previous marriage. My stepdaughter lives with us every other week. When we got married, my ex-wife tried everything to get full custody of stepdaughter and failed. But it was made very clear to me, by stepdaughter, ex-wife and husband, that I am not her mother and am not allowed to participate in raising her. Stepdaughter basically ignored me and my son for weeks. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't hurting anyone directly. My son learned very early not to cross stepdaughter and kept to himself when she was around. I suspected the ex-wife behind stepdaughter's coldness towards me and thought this must be hard for stepdaughter with all these changes. I tried to befriend her over the years but she wasn't having it. It got worse when my ex-wife remarried and got pregnant with twins 2 years ago. She started ignoring stepdaughter, trying to get my husband to have her more, we happily obliged, and basically stopped being a mother to her. It didn't help either that the new husband didn't like stepdaughter and wasn't shy about not wanting to raise another man's daughter. I asked my husband if we could take stepdaughter full time and try to raise her because I saw that her mental health was deteriorating and that she needed stability. The ex-wife blatantly refused this suggestion so we continued with it every other week. The twins were born about a year ago and all went downhill from there. It seemed like the worse stepdaughter had it at her mom's, the more she hated me and my son. She would throw fits a couple of times every time she's with us. Break our stuff. Call me a bitch if I tried to tell her off. It's her house because her father bought it and we're just guests. She would yell at my son and she even hit him a couple of times telling him to keep to his room if he didn't like her treatment of him. When I told her not to put her hand on my son she told me, "What are you going to do about it?" My son grew fearful of her and would ask me to take him to Grandpa, late BF's father, when she's living with us. I talked to my husband about it. I told him stepdaughter needed professional help because she's not feeling well and she's making us miserable when she's around. So she started to go to therapy. 6 months now. Other than that my husband didn't know what to do either. If he tried to talk to her about being nice to us, she played innocent and told him she was playing around and hugged and kissed my son in front of him, and if he tried to be stern, she threw a tantrum and accused him of loving my son more than her. 3 months ago, my son's grandpa passed away. This hit my son and me very hard. My son was inconsolable for many weeks and couldn't really understand what it meant that he couldn't see Grandpa again. Grandpa was a carpenter. So was my late BF. So from a very young age my son loved hanging with him in the garage, working. Many times when he's there he comes home with something they made together. Butter knives, boxes, chessboards. And for my 38th birthday last summer I got a stool that my son designed himself and built with his grandpa and then painted. This was the last project they had together since Grandpa passed away a few weeks later, so the stool was priceless to us. We had it in the kitchen. The stepdaughter made a lot of negative remarks about the stool, how ugly and poorly made it was. She laughed at my son's poor taste and he was very distraught. This was the first time, however, that my husband got very angry at her and asked her to go to her room. She was so scared of his reaction that she went without any protest. This Christmas, my stepdaughter was supposed to be with her mother. On Christmas Eve her mother dropped her off at our house very early in the morning. Her new husband had decided he didn't want her to go with them to his parents' house where they usually spend Christmas. The stepdaughter was on the verge of tears standing there listening to her mother making excuses to my husband and me. My husband hugged stepdaughter the whole time and I tried to fight away my tears. After her mom left, she went upstairs to her room to sleep. I also went to sleep since we don't usually wake up this early on holidays. When she saw me, she smirked and said she didn't want ugly furniture in her house. I pulled her away and told her to go to her room and tried to get the pieces of wood out of the fireplace. That was when she threw a scalding hot liquid in my face. It was hot cocoa. I yelled in pain and my son started panicking, so I ran to him to tell him that I was fine. The stepdaughter stood there laughing. I took my son upstairs and went back to her. I grabbed her hard in her arm and started pulling, pushing and dragging her up to her room and locked the door. Husband came home with my parents moments later. My mom took me to the emergency room and my son insisted on coming with me. I had second-degree burns on my cheek and neck. When I went home my husband was so mad at me for assaulting stepdaughter by using force to get her to her room. He told me I should have had compassion knowing how hurt she was by her mother's abandonment. I told him that I have had enough with this. I am living a nightmare 1 or 2 of my life. Having to go on eggshells in my own home whenever she's around. My son is a prisoner in his own room when she's living with us, too terrified to cross a boundary of hers. I told him that I didn't know how to handle this, and that it was a mistake from the beginning that I wasn't allowed to be a parental figure in her life with authority. He disagreed and told me that she has a kind heart and needed patience. But the thing is, I don't think she does. She targeted my son's handiwork, fully aware of its sentimental value, and my face because she always hated the fact that my husband thinks I am beautiful and is open with complimenting my eyes and smile. I didn't stay there for Christmas. I took my son and parents and went to my parents' home where I live now. My husband is in panic mode. He's been texting and calling me all the time trying to get me to move back and work things out. Stepdaughter even texted apologizing, he probably made her. But I don't know what to do. I love him so much, but I'm ashamed to say that I hate that girl. My son starts hyperventilating of the thought of living with her again. And what about my unborn baby? I feel sick of the thought of having 1-2 custody, and being at the mercy of his half-sister when it's my husband's week. This thought makes me want to have an abortion. Please tell me if there's another solution to this hell I'm living. Update. Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed the holidays. I'm overwhelmed with the support I received from you. It helped a lot. I was literally losing my mind and wasn't sure if it was wise of me to take these drastic measures. I'm sorry I didn't make an update. I just didn't think I had anything to add, plus these last weeks have been so hard. But I came here now to tell you that I have moved on with my plans. It's just hard for me to talk about it since it was a planned pregnancy and both soon-to-be ex and I were longing for him/her. It was also hard to see my soon-to-be ex broken over my decision. He thinks I have acted so fast and can't fathom how I could just throw away our life together so fast. I think he still doesn't realize the severity of stepdaughter's actions. He even had her with him when he visited me at my parents' house the first time. He wanted us to have a sit-down. When I saw her in the car, I immediately told him to drive back. He was shocked, however, when he saw the dark scars on my face. They'll fade away with time according to the doctor. I can't help but blame myself though. It's my fault that he thought this was a sudden decision. Had I been more honest and open with him, he would have known this was hurting me and my boy for months now, years really. This blame will lie with me and me alone. I thought by keeping my mouth shut I would minimize the damage. How wrong I was. My stepdaughter is living with her grandparents full-time now and I think it's going to be a permanent thing. Her stepdad is adamant about not having her around his children. I think this is so messed up on so many levels, but I don't know if I have a say in this. It's her parents' call even if I think it a grievous mistake. And I can't say that I care either. My boy is doing better. He loves living with my parents. He knows he will have to change schools and he's so scared about it, but he still thinks it's great that we moved. We started therapy. In one session the therapist tried to explain to him how stepdaughter is not feeling well, and that she needed help. He got upset and told the therapist he didn't agree with her. He told her stepdaughter isn't the only one hurting. Many kids have bad parents and that he never knew his father and lost people he loved, but still he wasn't mean to his family. I cried for days after this. I am so sorry for what I put him through. I just want to spend the rest of my life making it up to him. My beautiful baby. With Omicron we're back to working from home, so it really doesn't matter that I live 5h from work. I work in a bank and I have talked to my boss. She will help me apply to a nearer office. I think I have covered everything. If anything major happens I will make a new update. Thank you again for the support. You helped more than you can imagine. Ciao. Edit. We have rebuilt the stool. We couldn't make it perfect and we had to patch it in many places and repaint it. But we love it. Some explanation from OP. I'm sorry I haven't been able to answer all your questions. I wrote my update very late and went to sleep. When I woke up it was locked. I will try to answer some here soon. To be ex and his ex got divorced because the ex cheated on him. Her relationship with the affair partner didn't last. An affair partner left her when they got busted. This happened way before soon-to-be ex and I met. But the resentment came from soon-to-be ex. Moving on. From what I understood, soon-to-be ex and his ex were planning to give their relationship a second chance right before I met him, and he allegedly changed his mind. He blatantly denies this, but I've heard it from his ex and even stepdaughter. I know I was harsh on the stepdad, simply because I don't think him to be a good human being. His reluctance towards stepdaughter started way before the twins, and even before they got married he made it clear he would prefer it if stepdaughter didn't live with them. He even tried not to have her at their wedding. But after the incident, I don't blame him, even though I know he was happy he got a reason to get rid of her now. The problem is that stepdaughter loves him and the twins. She never speaks ill about him and always praises him. When she felt hurt by them, her hatred for me increased instead. I don't know how to explain it, but I kind of understood her. My soon-to-be ex isn't an evil man. He's probably a bad parent, but I don't think he is malicious. He knew his daughter was hurting and his solution was to spoil her when she stayed with us. It didn't help either that stepdaughter saw that he loved my son and treated him well. She always accused him of favoritism, and that drove him to spoil her even more to prove that she's his first priority. A vicious circle. On the morning of Christmas Eve, when my stepdaughter was dumped at our doorstep, soon-to-be ex cried after she went to bed and felt hopeless. I think that's why he couldn't understand the severity of what she did. She had bruises from where I dragged her to her room. Getting mad would probably have been my first reaction if I didn't know the full story and my child was bruised by an adult. I'm not trying to defend him. I'm trying to understand why he reacted like he did. About my stepdaughter moving with her grandparents. I think soon-to-be ex, even though he doesn't want to admit it, is repulsed by her run. It's so sickening, but I don't think he can help it. He feels terrible about the termination, and he's on sick leave now. This is so hard for me to write, but I think this is the brutal truth. I have promised myself not to get involved or utter an opinion about this matter to him or anybody else. She's not my responsibility, and maybe it's for the best because her grandparents are decent people. Even though I don't know, more feelings of abandonment is what stepdaughter needs. I don't think she's a psychopath. She has feelings, and a lot of them, especially rage. I don't think she's faking her rage. It feels very genuine. Many accused me of being a bad mom who only reacted when I personally was assaulted. I will have to live with this guilt and make it up to my boy for the rest of my life. These few weeks have been so dark. I keep thinking that she would have hurt my son with the hot drink instead of me, and I wouldn't have had the time to prevent it because it went so fast. I can't stop beating myself up about it, and I probably deserve it. My only defense is that her violence escalated very quickly and after the twins were born. Before that, I deemed the situation to be manageable. I was wrong, and I'm so sorry I let it go for so long. I don't feel well. The termination was so hard on me because I loved and wanted the baby. This has nothing to do with my political views or beliefs. I don't live in the US or any other religious country. Where I live, abortion is a basic human right and not a political view. It was hard for me because I have longed for a baby. Please stop abusing me in the chat, calling me a murderer and whatnot, or at least do it here and not hide in the private chat. I'm going to live with my parents for a while now, even after we settle the economy and separate our finances. I feel like it's good for us ATM. My son is so happy with them, even if he misses soon-to-be ex. He knows if he chose soon-to-be ex, it meant stepdaughter too, so he's trying to adjust to a life without his dad. We're getting a dog. He has always wanted one but couldn't because stepdaughter is allergic. I hope this answered all your questions, and thank you again for the support. Relevant comments. Commenter. OP mentioned soon-to-be ex feeling unwell right after mentioning pregnancy termination. My speculation would be just some negative feelings or depression about losing the prospect of losing an unborn child and correlating the cause to be his daughter, and particularly the burns she caused to OP, which he got to see the scars caused by it as a surprise when visiting her. I am assuming OP's injuries were bandaged up when she came home from the ER, and was confronted by OP and had no idea about the severity. Seems like things went from blissful ignorance to shocking realization of the current state of things around him. Some sort of a breakdown. From his life going from being married with child, stepchild, plus unborn child on the way. No more marriage. Stepchild is gone along with the wife. Discovery that bio-daughter was violent towards wife and stepson, which resulted in wife getting second-degree burns and scars on neck, dark face, and that ended up being the direct cause of termination of unborn child. Pretty much went from thinking he's got a near-perfect life to where did everyone go in the span of a single day. Commenter. I'd like to hear more about why stepdaughter is with her grandparents rather than father. All we have is conjecture. Understandable that we won't get an answer if OP has completely broken it off with him. Which it sounds like she has, and is certainly for the best. During Friendsgiving, I discovered my husband and his two friends had a hot tub pee game where they peed in the hot tub while I was in it. Last night we did a small Friendsgiving at my husband's parents' house who were out of town. It was mainly centered around his boyhood social circle, most of whom still have a family that live in the neighborhood. After we got done eating, a few of us decided that it would be nice to relax in the hot tub and look at the lights of the city. We had been there for maybe 5 minutes and my husband said, "Everyone ready?" His two friends gave a thumbs up and then in succession they each said done. My husband's friend Sakim said it was done last and they all started laughing and the other two said, "Okay, we'll buy the next round." It was an obvious inside joke, so I asked what they meant and they started laughing and explained the hot tub pee game that they had been playing since they were like 5 years old. I wanted to throw up and asked if they seriously all just peed in the hot tub. My husband said yes and it's no big deal. I was disgusted, so I got out, took an hour-long shower and went to sleep in his sister's old bedroom and decided I didn't want to talk to him until today. Today I feel like I've calmly approached him and tried to explain how dirty he made me feel. How unsanitary it was and how, while I appreciate that he has these long-running rituals with his friends, he needs to stop the ones that would make him laugh in middle school and for certain leave me out of them. All he keeps telling me is relax, you're making way too big a deal of this. I am sick of hearing him make excuses for this disgusting and childish behavior. How do I approach him to make him appreciate that I need him to never do this again? Top comment. Competitive_cuddling. Next time you're on your period, mark his forehead with your blood like Rafiki did Simba to assert dominance. Update post. I posted about this on Friday morning. We spent all day Friday fighting about how not only was it disrespectful but that he refused to even acknowledge my issues with literally being peed on. Around 10 p.m. I told him that if he said you're making way too big a deal of this one more time, I was going to file for divorce. He said it almost like he was daring me. TLDR, my mom and I are going to talk to an attorney today. My dad is a partner in his accounting firm and he thinks that since we are young and don't really have much, the divorce should be very quick and simple. My STB ex-husband has tried to call God knows how many times to apologize and saying he gets it now, but it's way too late for that. It was too late for that when he and his friends did the initial act. I have more self-respect than that. Relevant comments. Commenter. Well, I think it had less to do with the peeing and more to do with dismissing how you felt about it. He kept saying it's not a big deal, but he could have just been apologetic and understanding from the start. OP. When I approached him on Friday morning to calmly talk about this, if he would have said, I'm sorry, that was very rude of us and I will never do this type of thing ever again no matter who I'm with, I could have easily gotten past this. Commenter. Good for you. I do not understand people saying this is an overreaction. The person who is supposed to always have your best interests closest to his heart demonstrated that he doesn't care about your consent. He doesn't care about your boundaries. He doesn't care about your feelings. Like, why stay married to someone who can't even meet the baseline for decency? The only way I would consider staying would be a promise from him to seek therapy individually and as a couple, and he would need to apologize to you in front of those friends. And explain to those friends that what they did was not okay and why. And end that dumb childish game for good. And take a course in boundaries and consent. OP, I think if he were to come up with your second paragraph, on his own, not guiding him, I might be able to forgive him and cooperate. I also think he should ditch his childhood friends and grow up, but again, I'm not going to lead him to that decision. Commenter. I'd be careful of anything he says now though, as he could find this post, see your comment and just tell you exactly what you want to hear. OP, for sure, he's on Reddit all the time and even listens to Reddit posts on YouTube, but I should have clarified the time for him to do that was Friday. Now I'm so over it. Commenter. Info, have you texted your soon-to-be ex-in-laws to let them know they gotta clean their hot tub? OP, I sent my MIL an email, but I don't think she read that part because she only responded with how heartbroken she is that I'm divorcing her son and she felt like she deserved an explanation. I did my part warning her about the dirty hot tub, but I don't owe her anything. Commenter, not your fault she's not going to listen and continue to chill in bubbling stale pee. I mean that it is funny that she wants an explanation like a woman. Your son and his friends all peed in your hot tub while I was in it. Like if she's cool with that, she needs to reconsider her bar on hygiene. Ain't your circus and ain't your monkeys anymore. OP, to be fair, I didn't tell her about him peeing on me. I don't ever want to bring that up to anyone, unless it's needed in the divorce for me to get spousal maintenance, so unless he told her, which I really doubt, I don't know is the real reason. But like you said, it's not my thing anymore. He can tell her whatever he likes. Editor's note, spousal maintenance is the same thing as alimony. On spousal maintenance, I've supported him through a master's degree. I think state law says I'm entitled to 40% of his salary for half the number of years we were married. It will help me take some time off, get over the divorce and get on my feet again. Commenter, how long have you been married for? OP, just over 5 years. Commenter, deleted. Your husband dodged a bullet there. OP, I truly hope he feels that way. Judging by the 57 texts he's sent me just this morning. I don't think he does. Commenter, downvoted. LOL, are you guys seriously trying to defend this lady's delusional 5-year-old mind? Just say it out loud, I am getting a divorce because my husband peed in a hot tub. OP. I've been saying to myself for 3 days now and it sounds more right than ever. Commenter, downvoted. It's pretty obvious you do not love him lol. It's cool if you want to bail but threatening divorce in the middle of an argument is petty as fuck. OP, I loved him very much until Friday when he said you're making way too big a deal of this, for the 10000 the time. Then I was over it. Mini comment update, a few hours later. We are meeting with a lawyer in an hour. My mom keeps telling me to document everything as it will turn out better for me money-wise. Now to the next story, story 2. We broke up just after a month of dating because my boyfriend gave me a very bad and sexist book. Now I'm happy with my same-age husband. I met my boyfriend in our master's program. We became friends over this past year and started dating and becoming serious shortly before I left the state for a summer internship. He gifted me a book to read, saying it was one he liked. It's A Spell for Chameleon, by Piers Anthony, a fantasy novel written several decades ago. I knew nothing about it prior, and began laughing at it 2 pages in because of how ridiculous the writing was, especially about women. We Skyped after I got through the first chapter, and I tried respectfully explaining my doubts about the book. He made a deal with me. Knowing I'm a big Harry Potter fan, he promised to give the HP series a chance, starting with Philosopher's Stone, if I gave his book a chance and kept reading. This rocked my world, and I had a sudden burst of motivation. I'm on chapter 3, and I cannot stand this book. It is one of the most sexist and misogynistic texts I have ever had to read, and it honestly makes me feel like crap. Not to mention it's just poorly written all around, painfully spoon-feeding obvious symbolism, and excessively throwing in fantasy creatures concepts that do nothing for the plot. The protagonist is a complete dillhole that I couldn't care less about, and as a reader, I don't want to follow him or anything in the fantasy world of Xanth. But of course, flat out telling my boyfriend those thoughts about a book he enjoys would be hurtful, and he has every right to have different preferences. I am shocked that he would recommend such a book to me though. He is a respectful and educated man, treating me very well and identifying as a proud feminist. This recommendation was out of left field. Does he not remember how hurtful the author's writing on women is? Did he read it at a young age, and has since grown? I can't expect him to hold his end of the bargain and read Harry Potter, which is fine, especially if it means not having to put myself through Piers Anthony's excuse for writing ever again. I like my boyfriend a lot. How do I respectfully tell him why I cannot invest in this book anymore? It's important to me that he realizes the negative messages being suggested, but I want to do this without insulting his taste or making him feel at fault. TL Doctor, boyfriend gave me a book to read and I accepted. I think it's sexist and poorly written. How do I tell him that I cannot keep reading? Should I explain my concerns? Relevant comments. OP explains why the book is horrible. Example 1, I like beautiful girls, he said. And I like smart girls, but I don't trust the combination. I'd settle for an ordinary girl, except she'd get dull after a while. Sometimes I want to talk with someone intelligent, and sometimes I want to... He broke off. Her mind was like that of a child. It wasn't really right to impose such concepts on her. Example 2. That's the point, he said. I like variety. I would have trouble living with a stupid girl all the time, but you aren't stupid all the time. Ugliness is no good for all the time, but you aren't ugly all the time either. You are variety. And that is what I crave for the long-term relationship, and what no other girl can provide. Example 3. All women are the same inside, they differ only in appearance and talent. They all use men. Example 4, that whole rape trial in chapter 3. Example 5, other girls manage to enhance their appearance by cosmetics or padding or specialized spells, but besides Sabrina all other females looked somewhat artificial. She was no enemy. This was the PG-2 example I mentioned. Example 6, there was much more of her he longed to see, and to touch, but that could come only after marriage. She was that sort of girl, and it was part of her appeal. The girls who had it didn't need to put it on casual display. PG-3, Mikatoba. Oh good lord. I looked up the book and thought, this couldn't be that bad, could it? I guess it is that bad. Top comment. The first thing to ask is when he last read this book. If, like you said, he hasn't read it since adolescence, he may not remember how truly awful it is. If he's read it recently and still recommended it, well, I'd be totally honest about how I felt about it. But that's just me. You can certainly just tell him you gave it a fair shake but it wasn't your cup of tea. Update. The post was locked shortly after I put it up, so I wasn't able to comment back to most of you. I went through every comment and took them all into consideration. Thank you all for your thoughts. We Skyped the other night and the topic came up. I started by saying I liked him a lot and really do appreciate how much he's willing to share with me. He caught on to where I was going with this and started laughing. Then I started laughing. And I realized how silly small of a thing this all was. I guess I didn't want to risk hurting his feelings. When the reason why I didn't like the book came up, I explained, and he totally understood. It's been at least a decade since he's read the book, and he can see where I would feel uncomfortable. He will still consider reading the first HP book, since I gave his book a chance. And being a single dad, his kids also like the series, so it would be a chance for him to connect more with them. I ended by saying that I hope this doesn't discourage him from sharing more things he likes. If anything, it encourages me to find more that you'll appreciate. Q heart flutters. TL.ER, good talk, he's awesome. New update. Hi. I would reply to this under the username you lazy chickbum, but it got locked a little over a year ago. Reddit banned me for sharing a mayor's office contact information lol, and I created this one shortly after. It's hilarious this post is being shared because it's from such a different time in my life. Your instincts are right. This relationship only lasted a month after this post. I took an opportunity to live and study abroad for a few months and it was clear that he didn't want anything that deep, dodged any conversation that required vulnerability, didn't like that I wasn't always 100% perky, etc. I also had a rough breakup before this and wasn't making the best judgment calls when it came to dating. I could have caught a few more things about him that give similar concerns now as this book recommendation then. So I called it off. Oh my god, then he suddenly wanted to make it work, and kept it up for over a year after the breakup. We weren't even together that long. He would text me as if we never ended, and I would shut it down. He eventually stopped, but I still get occasional notifications on LinkedIn that he viewed my profile. I'm now happily married to someone my age, not knocking appropriate relationships with age gaps. I'm good friends with a couple who are 12 years apart, but I dodged a bullet, folks. Thanks for giving me a good laugh with this flashback. Now to the next story, story 3. I'm 15 weeks pregnant with our poly family's second baby and here I am thinking of running away from the family that we've created. Married for 9 years, me and my husband have been doing the polyamory thing for 4 years now. This started when my husband confessed to having feelings for one of our mutual friends. He really sold me on the idea of a poly triad and we started living together. My family disapproved and stopped visiting us. That hurt, but things were okay. I did struggle with some jealousy issues. Although I told my husband that I was open to dating someone new and bringing the new person into our fold, in reality, I wasn't ready at all. The guys I liked quickly distanced themselves romantically as soon they heard that I was a married female in a non-monogamous relationship. It was hard. As for the guys who were okay with my situation and pursued me, I wasn't attracted to them. Things changed in 2017 when my husband's girlfriend became pregnant with my husband's first child. I love the kid, I really do. She calls me Maman and loves me a lot. Right around the same time my company promoted me. I went from working 4 hours a day to essentially living 4 months out of my state. I immersed myself in my work and in 2019 my husband talked about having one of our own to complete the family. Fast forward to June 2020, I find out I'm pregnant and we are having a boy. We had a big gender reveal and everything. The kiddo knows that she's getting a baby brother. I'm currently 15 weeks along and 2 nights ago, my company offered me a permanent position in the new city. Because of COVID they had to lay off many people, and they now need more people in leadership roles. From a career standpoint, it would be foolish of me if I let this opportunity go. But if I do that, it would break my family apart. Right now my husband and his girlfriend are working on the baby room and I'm here sitting conflicted. I'm really tempted to take up the job offer and run away from the life that we've created. I'm also secretly contemplating an abortion. My friend thinks that I should take up the offer. He thinks I'm unhappy with my life and that a change would do me good. I would be working with him if I take up the offer. I have friends in that city so I know that I wouldn't be alone. I'm really stressed out thinking about it. What should I do? Commentator asks. This whole situation stems from the fact that you became poly under duress by nature of your cheating husband. You don't become poly because you have someone else lined up already. All these people telling you to just work it out fail to see that you were coerced into this situation. I'm baffled why you let it go on so long, especially since you didn't have a kid together, but I suppose it is your visceral desire for stability. I would get an abortion and go create a life you know, actually enjoy instead of this day-to-day, colorless life of acceptance you've tolerated for way too long. OP comments. This was blunt and maybe the honest response that I needed. My husband and his girlfriend swear that they didn't start a romantic relationship until I was fully in the loop of things. But to be really honest, I don't know. Maybe they did start out by cheating. But that ship has sailed and I accepted the situation. So looking back on that won't help my situation. But I do feel that I need a fresh start now. Away from the mundane life that I have. 15 weeks pregnant, I'm getting an abortion next week and moving on from my poly family. I made a post a few days ago about being conflicted with a new job offer and an existing pregnancy. Just thought I'd share it here first. Last night I accepted the job offer and I'm getting an abortion next week. My friend is helping me every step of the way. I'll be filing for divorce in a week or two. I've had great years with my poly family and my husband, and now it's time for me to make the jump and dive into the unknown. Thanks to all the people who sent me supportive PMS and helped me make my decision. And yes, I did talk to a therapist via Zoom. That session helped me clear my head in a way that I hadn't felt before. And, no, I haven't talked to my husband. I will talk to him after I actually get the abortion procedure done. I'm really focused at this moment and don't want conflicting opinions to derail my journey. So I will talk to him after it's all done. Thank you. OP comment. I'm not poly. My husband became poly a couple of years into our marriage when he fell in love with a mutual friend, and I went along with it because I wanted to please my husband and I was afraid of our marriage breaking up. He was, and is, my only partner and I was terrified of losing him. Clearly, that was a mistake and it built a lot of resentment inside me over the years which I couldn't understand or justify to myself. I finally aborted my 15-week pregnancy and I'm ending my polyamorous marriage. I moved out this Wednesday. If you check my post history you would know what I'm talking about. Just an update for the people who reached out to me. I did get an abortion last week, on Friday. I finally told him this week, on Wednesday. I'd never seen him so broken. It broke my heart to see him cry, but I had to do it. His girlfriend hugged me, little kiddo hugged me and bid me goodbye. My husband refused to talk to me. I'm waiting for him to reach out. I'm giving him space right now. I'm at peace and I don't regret my decision. With this I'm bidding my poly lifestyle a final goodbye. Thanks to all the people here who supported me. My best friend claims I owe her everything I have, including my boyfriend. She thinks I wouldn't be successful without her. Is she right? I know I should be careful calling someone best friend in a post like this, but I don't know how else to call Jessie. Our parents are great friends so we grew up together and she kind of had my back in high school. Long story short, on the teenager food chain, she was on top and I should be on the bottom. But nobody messed with me cause I was Jessie's friend. Jessie is one of those people who require attention. I never minded though, nobody is perfect, right? But now that I have my first real boyfriend, she doesn't know how to behave. Every time we are together she is really handsy. Always touching his arms, running fingers through his hair, complimenting him. And now she even started with the prank spankings on the butt, you know? I just feel really uncomfortable with it. Maybe it's normal. I mean, Jessie has a lot of guys friends so maybe this is okay. My best friend never thought much of it either. Am I just overreacting? She is super pretty so maybe I'm just jealous. Anyway, yesterday something really threw me off. Best friend had to do some work and I had a book thing, hobby. So we decided to meet later at a friend's house. They were getting together to drink and so on. Best friend finishes work early and calls me, but I don't really need him to come over to the book thing. I know he doesn't like it, so I just tell him to go to friend's house. Then I start getting texts from Jessie all like, "Girl, you gotta come to this party now. Your best friend is wasted. LOL. LOL. We so drunk you need to come and stop us. I can't behave myself if you don't get here soon." And so on. The book thing took longer than I thought and I was just getting mad and madder, but I am a very non-confrontational person, so I deal with it. I call best friend when it's over, cause I don't feel like going to this party anymore, but I was his ride, so I ask him if needs me to come pick him up. He says, sure. I get there and don't even go inside. I am ready to release the hounds of hell on him. But he gets in my car and he is stone cold sober. I ask him if he was drinking and then show him Jessie's texts. He gets super upset and says she was lying. He wasn't even hanging directly with her, but catching up with a friend who just came back to town. He says I should have texted him letting him know what she was saying so he could confront her about it, since you don't ever seem to be able to give that girl some boundaries, his words. Now I am thinking maybe I should talk to Jessie. But maybe she was just drunk and annoying me cause she wanted me there. I don't know. I mean, this girl was really nice to me growing up when she could have been a bitch. I don't like how she behaves around him but at the same time I don't want it to look like I don't trust her. Is there a polite way of going about it? Or I should maybe wait and see if this happens again? Am I overreacting? Too long. Didn't read old friends are handsy with my boyfriend, and it upsets me but I don't know if I should tell her or how. Update. Thanks to everyone for your comments and help. I decided to talk to Jessie and posted a development to the story update one yesterday. I posted here about how my best friend Jessie is a bit handsy with my boyfriend and it makes me feel uncomfortable. Too long. Didn't read as she touches him a lot and sent me inappropriate messages when she was at a party with him. I am very thankful to all those who commented, especially the ones who encouraged me to say something and what. I don't like arguments, so those were very important to me. Thank you. Last night we were alone because she wanted me to help her choose clothes for an event. I was at her place so I thought I should say something. I wanted to say something. I was very polite and just said that I knew she meant no harm but I didn't feel good about it. So I asked her if she could tone it down. I should have said stop, but I guess I'm weak. She didn't really say anything mean, but her attitude was a bit off, I think. She was looking at me in a scornful kind of way, and the way she smiled once I was done talking. It just felt weird. She didn't say anything else but, okay, and we just moved on to choosing her clothes and I left after. We were supposed to go get something to eat but she said she was tired. I am not dumb, she was hurt. So I texted a common friend, more her friend than mine, and without getting into details, I just told him that I talked to Jess about something that was important to me but that I was afraid she may have gotten the wrong idea from it. The common friend said, look, I don't want to get involved, but you should watch it. I asked what he meant, he said nothing, just watch it. A little while after that he texts me back and says changed my mind, I do want to get involved. And sends me a bunch of prints of texts going back and forth between him and Jessie. It basically starts with him asking her if the two of us had a fight, cause I was worried. He was kind with his words, I don't mind him stepping in. And then just a non-stop stream of her being horrible. She says I had a big mouth and was judging her behavior cause I'm a prude who doesn't know how to be around guys. How she taught me everything I know about having a life and how dare I tell her what she can or cannot do, or how I should thank her for even having a boyfriend at all. Common friend actually called her out for being rude and no friend of mine. After the prints he told me I'm done with her, I give up and you should watch it. He also said it was okay if I told her I had the prints. I didn't though, didn't know what to say. I mean she is not 100% wrong, but even though I know that, it really hurts to read those. This morning I woke up and saw she texted me late at night. She says she knows Pete sent me the prints and she didn't mean to be rude, but it's ridiculous that I'm jealous of her because if she wanted my best friend she could just have him, you want me to prove it. So I'm being silly and should drop it, is what she meant. She ends it with kisses and a joke. So I don't know if she was being playful, apologizing, threatening or being pragmatic. I didn't answer her yet. I don't know what to say. Should I even say something? Or should I just let it go? I wish I could talk to someone about this but I am very private. I usually go to Jessie with these things. Help, too long. Didn't read asked an old friend to stop being so handsy with my boyfriend. She took it the wrong way and told a common friend I got no business telling her what to do since I owe her so much notable comments. Commenter. Sounds like this person is completely wrapped up in their own head and has a serious case of overthinking their importance in life, especially other people's lives. Obviously we're all going to tell you to drop her because she's not a desirable person to be around if that's how she acts/talks to you in person and behind your back. This person thinks they own you enough so that they're decided to let you have your best friend. Fuck that shit. Also show your guy everything that's happened cause guaranteed she's going to go after him. OP, I suppose you're all right. It just gets me, you know? It's a 20-year-long friendship. I keep thinking maybe this is a misunderstanding. She didn't mean it or she is going through a hard time and doesn't know how to deal with it. I am just trying to make sure I am not overreacting, so I needed some outside perspective. As for my best friend, I think he would turn her down quite fast. He doesn't really like her. He just hangs with her because of me. He's always saying that he'd rather not and all. So it's unlikely that they'd be alone together. But I will talk to him. Thank you for the heads up. Turns out she already went after him, I was stupid. Update 2, my boyfriend is having sex with her. A friend convinced some other friends to send me prints of text between themselves and either my best friend or best friend. They're pretty clear. I confronted my best friend, he looked lost, said he loves me and it was just sex. He says Jessie kept throwing herself at him, teasing him, and he said he didn't like her but I still wanted to hang out. He said he just had sex with her to see if she would move on and leave him alone, and that it only happened a couple of times. Says he won't do it anymore. He doesn't even like her. He loves me, asking me to please forgive him. From the texts, once I finally made it through them all, I think that Jessie went to the party, where me and my best friend met, because she wanted to hook up with him. She had it bad for him, but he didn't feel the same way. She was trying to get him to break up with me and then to get me to break up with him. It worked. As of yesterday he is a single man. In some of those texts they are talking about some of the hookups. I feel like throwing up. I blocked him, 'cause he was still trying to get in touch. I ghosted her. But she just sent me a message saying she just heard what happened and, this was probably for the best, right? And I feel like fucking screaming. I don't know if this is an update or just me venting. Thanks for listening either way. Edit, I don't want to sound melodramatic or sappy or anything, but you all brought me to tears. We keep hearing about how it is insanity to rely on the internet for personal connections, but I just lost a boyfriend, a best friend and a whole group of friends. And instead of feeling alone, I am more and more feeling like fuck yeah, that was the right thing to do, I will be okay. It still hurts. But not as much as it would had I really been alone. I can't even begin to thank this sub. I really don't know what to say. Even on my previous posts that didn't get as many responses, it was some of the comments there that made me approach the cheating thing knowing I had to break up and move on. So it changed my life at that moment. And considering I will be doing a lot of soul searching on toxic relationships, this probably changed my life for good. So thank you all so much for reaching out to a stranger. This community is so precious. And I got a gold, I don't even know what to say. Thank you so much. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but I don't even know how much gold costs, and this is an alt account, so it won't really be used. Is there any way I can return it to the sender? Some of you are asking for an update. I might in a while, if there is something new to tell. Right now it's just more of the same. I don't think I will be able to answer all the comments, but I am trying to at least answer the ones with questions. Thank you. Notable comments. Commenter 1. Well yeah, I would just ditch that whole friend group and start trying to find new friends. My god, that's some fucked up shit. OP. Yep, done and done. I think I'm being too permissive with the word friend. It was going on for months. Everyone knew. Nobody had the decency to tell me. It was only the one friend who wasn't even that close who stood up for me. Commenter 2. You also can't make her hurt. She has no respect for you and clearly doesn't care. So it will be impossible anyways. It would have the same effect as a drunk stranger telling you that you're awful. It might make you angry, but you didn't care about that stranger, so what they say is irrelevant. Also, I can't imagine anything so utterly not worth your time. The delightful side effect of just ghosting is that they will stew in it. They want the reaction, but they get none. They realize they lost all their power and never get to know and feel that satisfaction that comes from getting the reaction you wanted. OP, oh, I get what you mean. She is still texting me. I didn't mention one detail cause it wasn't important. We were all traveling together soon. My family paid for some of Jessie's expenses. She is messaging me about the vouchers, since I have them all. This fucking woman can't even wait a day to ask. It's like she suddenly remembered she still needs me. I mean, I am not giving them to her either way. Trip is off, can't she tell? She has no respect for you and clearly doesn't care. Absolute truth. Commenter 3. She would be more hurt by no response at all. To anything, ever. OP, go no contact. OP. I'm very much thinking the silence treatment will be the way to go. I think she just realized she needs me for the trip. She has been aggressively trying to contact me. Now she is saying that she liked my best friend first, and I was the one who stole him, so she is the one who should be mad. I know I should just block her everywhere. But is it petty that I am having fun watching her squirm? I wanted to have the last word, but not saying anything is driving her crazy. Commenter 4. He said he just had sex with her to see if she would move on and leave him alone, and that it only happened a couple of times. Says he won't do it anymore, he doesn't even like her, he loves me, asking me to please forgive him. LOL, what? Seriously, that is one of the stupidest things I have heard. It is like saying, hey babe, I jumped off a cliff because somebody was really pestering me to do it. Edit, I feel for you OP, but what an excuse. OP, I confess I almost fell for it. How pathetic is that? He was saying he cared about me, it was just a mistake, he thought she would back off. And I felt it was a bad decision on his part, but maybe it made sense and I could forgive him. Then he said something like, and I didn't even like her, you were the one who always wanted us to hang. That's when my brain joined the party and I was like, is he seriously trying to blame this shit on me? More comments made by OP. Most disgusting part is that it is a trip we would take together with my best friend and some other friends. So she really thinks I would let my family pay for her to go on vacation with my ex who she cheated on me with. I'm starting to think this woman is sick. Like for real. I just went straight to venting, didn't I? Sorry. Well, it was all Pete really. After she texted she could get my best friend if she wanted to, I just answered back, WTF Jessie. And she lol'd as if it was a joke. After that, Pete texted me, asked me if I was alone. He was really kind, and told me everything. Said he had proof and asked if I wanted to see it. I said yes. He had gone after our friends and convinced them to send him prints. He's really well liked by everyone. And he was the one who said enough Pete is gay BTW, just in case anyone jumps the gun like my mom did and think he did this because he's interested in me or something. He's not. He is just a decent person. No, I didn't get prints between best friend and Jesse. I guess I went straight to venting and didn't give much details. Wasn't expecting this response. There was this friend Pete who convinced 3 other friends to send him texts between them, 3 friends, and either Jesse or best friend, so he could have proof, 'cause he thought what was happening was disrespectful and someone should tell me. There were prints of texts between 2 friends and Jesse. And 1 other friend and best friend. They were pretty clear. Jesse especially didn't seem to care about hiding it at all. Best friend texts were mostly wondering if I had noticed something. And wanting Jesse to back off, while saying she was hot, etc. There was nothing 100% confirmation on his side. It wasn't a talk between him and one of his closest friends, so it was kind of generic. But when I confronted him, I said I had prints, without saying what they showed, and he just confessed. I really appreciate the prints. It was ultimate evidence. But I don't think they did it for me. It's a Pete thing, you'd have to know him to understand. He's the stand-up guy who is everyone's friend. He is a huge person. I think they sent the prints because it was something, for him, you know? He was the one leading the charge and dealing with consequences. If it were just me, I don't think they would have done it. Update 3 I said I'd come back if anything relevant happened. EX best friend kept trying to get in touch through common friends. They kept asking me to unblock him and at least hear him out, 'cause he was really sorry, he loved me, he was a mess, he didn't mean to. Someone even went as far as to ask me if I was really sure it happened. They offered to send me prints of texts where he was talking about me, so I'd see how he always had great things to say and how much he cared. But I've had it with the print screen drama for life and said no. To the ones who insisted I told them I wasn't unblocking him, had nothing to say or hear, and if they kept pushing me, I'd block them too. I ran into my EX best friend at this book thing I go to often, hobby of mine. Maybe I'm being presumptuous, but I think he went there for me. He didn't really have any business there, but I'm just speculating really. He asked if I had a few minutes for coffee. I said I was late. He walked me to my car. He looked so good, smelled great. He was so sweet. Was even wearing his hair the way I like it. I feel horrible because even after everything, I still like him. He apologized some more. Said he knew I needed time and space but asked if I'd consider giving him another chance 'cause he would wait for me. Said he would never talk to Jesse again. And would act like they had restraining orders against each other. And I just found it really funny how everything he was saying required me trusting him. Which I don't. So I told him I wasn't interested anymore and he should move on. I wish I said something snappier or wittier. But I had nothing. This was Saturday. I haven't heard from him or friends since. I think that was that. Jesse also kept trying to talk to me. Like I told some of you in the comments, I had a trip coming up. It would have been me, Jesse, EX best friend and a few friends. Since Jessie couldn't afford it, my parents paid for most of her expenses. She must have remembered this right after everything went down and panicked because I had everything, vouchers, confirmation emails, credit card info. She went crazy. Even showed up at my place. I wasn't home and my roommate told her to fuck off. Exact words. I didn't block her at first 'cause I admit I was having some fun watching her despair. I talked to my mom and she was amazing. Told me I should cancel everything even if it cost us money. It was fine. So I did. And for one last bit of print screen drama. I printed all the emails I got confirming cancellations and sent those to Jessie with the word bye, before blocking her. My roommate has been amazing. We were never really close and now I don't even know why. She canceled plans with her friends to stay with me and invited me to go out with them next weekend. A few of you suggested I see a therapist and I did, yesterday. I really liked it. It was just one appointment and I mostly just talked, but it felt good. She gave me homework. She talked a little about unhealthy and abusive relationships and asked me to think about my friendship with Jessie and try to point out what was healthy and what was unhealthy about it. Made me realize she was never really my friend. She was taking advantage of me for years and she even had me thanking her for it. Therapist also told me about this saying, I think that's what it is, called the narcissist's prayer, which goes something like, that didn't happen. If it did, it wasn't my fault. If it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, then you deserved it, which is totally how Jessie is handling this whole thing now. So good riddance indeed. And a final piece of gossip. Pete talked to me yesterday. He checks up sometimes. He's a good guy. Again, he is gay, in case someone is still thinking this might turn into a romantic comedy. He said Jessie was super sure that since I broke things off, she and Dean would hook up right away. But apparently he doesn't have the same plans, and that freaked her out over the weekend. Pete says he really is a mess and went out drinking hard 4 nights in a row to the point he had to be carried home by his pals. And yesterday, they all went out for lunch at this burger place. Jessie was going to run her fingers through his hair or something, and he just pushed her away and told her to stop and to never touch him again. Great that now he manages to do that, huh? I guess in the end he really did like me in his sick way. The thing is, I don't want to be with someone who likes me in a sick way. I want to be with someone who likes me in a healthy way. I think I deserve that. I am also thinking about taking the money I got back from the trip to go somewhere else by myself. Haven't decided yet. Anyway, this will be the final update on this, since it is unlikely that I will have anything new to add. Now I think I just need time to heal and let go, you know? I might come back in a few months if there is reason to do a "Yay, life is awesome now" post, but I wanted to post this update now because I wanted to end this whole story on a bright note. And of course, thank you all again. You are the best. Too long. Didn't read, it's all good. As well as could be anyway, thanks Reddit. Adoptive parents kicked me out at 17 for getting pregnant and refusing to keep my baby. 20 years later, their biological son reached out to me. When I was 17, my adoptive parents kicked me out and disowned me because I got pregnant and refused to give them my baby. 2 decades later, their biological son found me on Facebook and reached out. I was just 4 years old when I lost my parents in a tragic car accident. I don't remember much about the crash itself, just that one moment I was in the back seat, and the next time I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital. Waking up to a world of nurses and doctors was terrifying for me as a child. I remember a CPS worker sitting beside me, explaining that my parents had died and I would need to stay with another family for a while. It was all so confusing and overwhelming. After that, I went through a series of foster homes, none of which ever felt like home. When I was 5, I was finally placed with Lorraine and James, who had been eager to have a child of their own. From the start, I felt their warmth and genuine care. They welcomed me into their home without hesitation, filling the emptiness I had felt from losing my own family. It seemed like, after all the tragedy, I had finally found a second family. However, as soon as I moved in, I noticed that James was very strict and disciplined, while Lorraine seemed to always follow his lead. I later learned that James's strictness was due to his background as an Army veteran who had been injured in action. His military experiences explained his obsession with meticulous planning and order. Understanding this didn't make it any easier when he would get angry over small things, like being a minute late for church. His strictness often left me feeling anxious and like I had to walk on eggshells around him. Lorraine, on the other hand, was more laid back but also drank a lot when James wasn't around. I watched her finish entire bottles of wine by herself, and she always seemed lost in her thoughts. She rarely asked about my school or homework, and aside from drinking, her main activities were cooking and cleaning because James was very particular about that. At first, things were smooth and I didn't witness many conflicts between them, but as I grew older, I began to see James's true nature. He was abusive. For James, my academic performance was everything. He constantly pressured me to improve, and if anyone outperformed me, he would get enraged. Even the slightest dip in my grades would result in him hitting me and calling me stupid. He frequently threatened to send me back to the orphanage if my marks didn't meet his expectations. As a child, I didn't realize this threat was empty, and it terrified me each time he mentioned it. I worked tirelessly to avoid being sent back. I also observed Lorraine and James having arguments, which would end with James dragging her into their bedroom. She would emerge with bruises on her hands and face. At first, I didn't understand what was happening, but it soon became clear that he was physically abusing her. To keep me from witnessing his violence, he would isolate Lorraine. I couldn't understand why Lorraine never called the police. After their fights, she would just sit and cry for hours, while James would drink beer and watch TV. Realizing James's abusive nature made me fear being alone with him or doing anything that might upset him. But as anyone who has lived in an abusive environment knows, abusers will find any excuse to lash out. No matter how careful I was or how hard I tried to avoid provoking him, he always found a reason to be angry. Initially, it was all about my grades, but as I grew older, his focus shifted. It wasn't just about academics anymore. He criticized everything. From the clothes I wore to the friends I chose and even any romantic interests I had. He insisted I come straight home from school, claiming that spending time with friends was a distraction and that they would amount to nothing. According to him, I needed to keep my focus solely on my studies. Unbeknownst to James, Lorraine discreetly allowed me to spend an hour with my friends after school. Knowing that James wouldn't return until later in the evening, she saw it as a small chance for me to enjoy some normalcy and social interaction beyond the tense atmosphere at home. These brief moments away from the constant pressure and scrutiny were precious to me, and I valued the time spent with my friends, even if it was short-lived. Lorraine's quiet act of kindness meant a great deal to me. However, things took a turn for the worse when James lost his job. The job loss seemed to heighten his frustration and anger, worsening the already abusive environment at home. With the added strain of financial instability, James became even more unpredictable and volatile, lashing out over the smallest things. I recall one night when Lorraine had just finished making dinner. As James sat down and glanced at the meal, he erupted into a furious rant about how it didn't meet his standards. He began yelling and slamming the table, berating her and threatening to throw her out if she couldn't cook properly. In his rage, he threw his plate against the wall, leaving Lorraine and me in a state of fear as we watched him. I could feel my whole body trembling. When I finally ate the food, I found nothing wrong with Lorraine's cooking. Over time, James's drinking worsened. With his unemployment and idle days, beer cans accumulated in the living room each morning, which Lorraine had to clean up. I also found myself unable to spend time with my friends as James would harshly criticize me if I was even a minute late coming home from school. At 15, a classmate named Harry confessed his feelings for me and asked me out on a date. Despite my anxiety over James finding out, I was eager to experience a date and explore my feelings as a teenager. So, despite my worries, I agreed to go out with Harry. We met at a local coffee shop after school and spent the afternoon chatting and getting to know each other. That date turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life, as it marked the beginning of our love story. Harry was everything James was not, gentle and kind to everyone, including animals. He would bring me my favorite flowers whenever he could, saving up his pocket money to do so. Having never had a good role model, I didn't expect much, but Harry treated me with the care and respect I had always wanted. James was always a bit suspicious and would question me about whether I was spending time with any boys. I would deny it, silently hoping he wouldn't uncover the truth. Fortunately, not having a phone meant there were no incriminating texts he could discover. Harry and I took great care to keep our relationship private, even avoiding telling our friends to prevent any gossip. Harry understood my fear of James and was willing to keep our relationship a secret. When prom approached, Harry and I decided to attend with our group of friends to avoid drawing any unwanted attention. However, when James learned of my plans to go to prom, he outright forbade it. He dismissed it as a waste of time and refused to buy me a dress. I didn't really care about the dress. I just wanted to enjoy the evening with my friends. I begged him to let me go, reminding him of my good grades and how I had met his expectations. He scolded me, belittling my friendships and insisting that prom was insignificant. Lorraine disagreed and argued with James, believing there was no reason for me to stay home while my peers enjoyed themselves. James insisted that teenagers lacked a sense of right and wrong and that he wouldn't allow me to go out simply to have fun when I could stay home and be safe. Despite my pleas and attempts to explain how important this event was to me, he remained resolute, dismissing my feelings as trivial. He even threatened to lock me out if I tried to sneak out for prom. On the night of the dance, I was the only one who stayed behind, spending the evening crying alone in my room. I was growing increasingly weary of living with James. After high school, it became even harder to see Harry since I wasn't allowed out and didn't have a phone. I asked James for a phone, but he insisted I didn't need one at my age. I argued that I'd be going to college and that everyone had a phone, but he said I'd have to buy one myself if I wanted it. That's when I decided to get a part-time job. Though the pay was modest, it allowed me to earn some money and gain a bit of independence. It also meant I could spend time with Harry without James finding out, using work as an excuse while I met up with him. Eventually, I received the incredible news that I had been accepted into an Ivy League university with a full scholarship. This was a significant accomplishment, as no one from my town had ever achieved it before. James took it upon himself to brag about my success to anyone who would listen, proclaiming how proud he was of me. Despite his constant boasting, he never actually congratulated me personally, instead acting as though my achievement was a reflection of his own success. After receiving my college acceptance, I felt an enormous sense of relief. At last, James had nothing to complain about, as I had fulfilled his greatest dream by securing a spot in a prestigious college with a scholarship. With my job and academic success, he couldn't label me as lazy anymore. His newfound satisfaction led him to agree to buy me a phone and allowed me to use the money I earned from work for college expenses. He even permitted me to hang out with my friends after work. For the first time, I felt like I could enjoy life a bit, just like everyone else. Harry and I knew we'd be separated when we went to college, but we promised to meet up whenever we could. Our intimacy was careful and limited, with both of us taking precautions. A couple of weeks later, I began experiencing unusual symptoms that resembled those of my period, but without actually having it. Being perceptive, I sensed something was wrong with my body, and I found myself craving food at odd hours. Panicking, I told Harry that I needed to take a pregnancy test, and he agreed. I took 3 tests, all of which came back positive. The shock was overwhelming, and I collapsed on the floor, crying uncontrollably. It felt like I was living through one of my worst nightmares. Harry tried to comfort me, but I was trembling with fear. I knew that if James discovered I was pregnant, especially right before college, he would react with unimaginable anger. Harry reassured me that the decision was entirely mine and that he would support me no matter what. He suggested talking to his parents first and then approaching James together to prevent any violent reactions. Given my difficult home situation, Harry was genuinely concerned for my safety. His parents were incredibly understanding. His mother embraced me and comforted me, saying that such things happen to many people and not to worry too much. They agreed to come to my place to help break the news to James. When Lorraine and James were informed of the pregnancy, they were utterly shocked. Lorraine asked me twice if I was certain, and I confirmed with the results from multiple tests. James, however, erupted in anger, accusing me of being a product of his reluctance to adopt children from strangers, citing their unpredictable nature. He hurled a barrage of insults at me, claiming I had ruined my life. Harry's parents tried to calm James down, but he directed his fury at them, blaming them for the situation and appearing ready to physically confront Harry, who sat quietly in the corner. Overcome with emotion, I started crying and told James that I wasn't planning to keep the baby, so he had nothing to worry about. I assured him that everything could return to normal, and I would still go to college as planned. At that point, Lorraine asked to speak with James privately. They left the room while I sat there, crying and anxiously fidgeting. Harry's parents looked at me with sympathy. When Lorraine and James returned, Lorraine's words struck me like a tidal wave. She proposed that we didn't necessarily have to give up the baby, suggesting that I could carry the pregnancy to term and then transfer my parental rights to them. I sat there in stunned silence as Lorraine stressed that the child was a gift from God and urged us not to consider other options. James supported Lorraine's view, suggesting that this arrangement would be ideal, especially since Lorraine was already pregnant herself. His words left me completely bewildered, and I struggled to grasp what he was proposing. James revealed that Lorraine had only recently discovered her pregnancy and had kept it private while processing the news. With my own pregnancy, they now saw an opportunity to raise both children together as siblings. The shock of their suggestion left me speechless, grappling with the gravity of their proposal and the unexpected turn of events. Harry's parents were equally stunned and quickly expressed their disapproval. However, James interrupted, asserting that the decision was not theirs to make and looked at me expectantly, waiting for my response. Overwhelmed with anxiety, I knew deep down that I couldn't agree to Lorraine and James's proposal. The idea of giving up my child to be raised in an environment reminiscent of my own troubled upbringing was unbearable. Although Lorraine had shown herself to be a caring mother in many ways, I couldn't ignore the fact that she couldn't shield herself from James's behavior, let alone ensure my child's safety. The thought of subjecting my unborn child to the same uncertainty and potential danger was unacceptable. While I cherished the thought of becoming a mother one day, I knew the timing and circumstances were far from ideal. I couldn't bring a child into the world under these conditions, knowing I couldn't guarantee their safety and well-being. I firmly told James that, although I was glad to be gaining a sibling soon, I couldn't proceed with the pregnancy. I was neither mentally nor physically strong enough to handle it. The idea of watching my child grow up with Lorraine and James, while pretending they were just a sibling, was inconceivable. Living a lie and denying my child the truth about their parentage was something I simply couldn't endure. When I shared my decision, Lorraine broke down in tears, expressing her disappointment that I couldn't do this for her despite all the sacrifices she had made for me. James, visibly enraged, got up and began pacing the room. I tried to explain my stance, but they refused to understand. Harry's mother stepped in, supporting my choice and offering to arrange an appointment with a gynecologist to move forward with the procedure. Lorraine's crying intensified, and James started shouting, asking if I was satisfied now that I was causing her so much pain. He then demanded that I pack my things and leave the house. My shock was palpable as James declared he was fed up with me, accusing me of being ungrateful and selfish for not giving them my child. Harry's parents gently urged me to pack up quickly, clearly troubled by James's volatile behavior. I hurried upstairs to gather my important documents, photo albums, and as many clothes as I could. When I came back downstairs, James warned me to take whatever I could carry because he planned to throw out and burn the rest of my belongings the next day. I tried to speak with Lorraine but she wouldn't even look at me. As I left, James told me I should never come back. I was bewildered and heartbroken, unable to understand what I had done to warrant such ruthless rejection. Harry and his parents generously offered me a place to stay, and I returned to their home. The following days were a blur as they took me to the gynecologist, where we scheduled the necessary procedure. It was a difficult decision for both me and Harry, but given the circumstances, we knew it was the best choice for our future. After the procedure, I spent a few days recovering with Harry by my side, offering unwavering support. He and his parents were incredibly kind and did everything they could to help me through this challenging time. Throughout this ordeal, James and Lorraine never reached out to me. When the day came for me to move into college, I texted James, hoping he might have forgiven me by then. Instead, he responded with harsh words, calling me a failure and a disappointment and accusing me of turning into a prostitute. He said he didn't want his biological child to end up like me. His cruel message cut me deeply, and I cried for hours. They had been the only parents I knew, and now, with their own children on the way, they had severed ties with me. My college years were challenging but ultimately rewarding. I juggled a part-time job with my studies, working hard to maintain my grades. It was tough, but I was determined to succeed. Fortunately, Harry kept his promise and supported me throughout. He would visit me at college whenever he could, and his constant encouragement helped me through the rough patches. During holidays, his parents often invited me to spend time with them, and they began to feel like family to me. I graduated with honors, achieving the distinction of KL, and Harry and his parents were there to celebrate my graduation. I secured a good job in my field, and it was a proud moment knowing all my hard work had paid off. Harry and I eventually moved in together, and our relationship grew stronger with time. We supported each other through life's ups and downs, and after several years, we decided to get married. Our wedding was a beautiful celebration of our love and commitment, surrounded by our closest friends and family. I didn't even consider inviting James and Lorraine to the wedding. As a married couple, Harry and I have continued to build our life together. Recently, we took a significant step by buying a new house and renting out our old one. Our new home has become a cozy haven where we create new memories and plan for the future. We bought the new place to be closer to Harry's aging parents, who have become like family to me as well. I want to be there for them in any way I can. It's been almost 20 years since James and Lorraine kicked me out, and I barely remember them now. Over the years, I haven't dwelled on them much, though I do recall spending my first year of college grieving their absence. By my second year, I resolved to forge a new life for myself, free from their rejection. It was painful. And building this life on my own took immense strength. They've never reached out to me, and I haven't felt the need to check in on them either. Throughout these years, Harry has been my steadfast companion and partner in every sense. Although we never had children, our two beloved dogs have brought us immense joy. We visit Harry's parents every other weekend and frequently enjoy trips and discovering new restaurants together. Looking back, I feel that my life has turned out well, and I wish I could embrace my 17-year-old self and reassure her about her future. Recently, I received a friend request on Facebook from someone named Matt with a surname that seemed familiar. When I checked his profile, I was taken aback by how much he resembled James. I accepted his request and he sent me a greeting. I replied, and he soon asked if I knew anyone named James and Lorraine. My heart raced as I realized he was their son. Nervous yet determined to be honest, I confirmed that I knew them since they had adopted me when I was 5. Matt expressed a strong desire to talk if I was comfortable, so I agreed and gave him my number. When he called, the conversation started off awkwardly, but Matt soon shared that he had always known about a child his parents had before him because he had seen my pictures in the family photo album. Whenever he asked about it, his parents would dodge the question. He had been searching for me for a long time, having learned my name from our hometown, and he had recently stumbled upon my profile by chance. His sole reason for reaching out was to uncover the truth. As I recounted the painful events of my past, including how his parents had asked me to give up my child and then expelled me when I refused, I could feel the weight of the emotions. I described their absence from my life over the years and how I had managed to cope thanks to the support of my husband's parents. The conversation was emotionally charged, and I revealed long-buried feelings. Matt's voice conveyed shock and disbelief as he absorbed my account. After a period of silence, he told me he had no idea his parents had treated me so cruelly. He had always believed their story that I had left on my own accord. He thanked me sincerely for my honesty and apologized on behalf of his parents, expressing regret for the pain they had caused me. Since our conversation, I've felt grateful for Matt's effort to reach out and his understanding, which has brought me some comfort and validation. However, I worry about how James and Lorraine will react when they learn that I've shared the truth with Matt. Did I make the right choice in revealing everything, or would it have been better to keep silent? Update 1. I wanted to share that my initial concerns were valid. Within just 24 hours of Matt reaching out to me, Lorraine and James began bombarding me with calls and texts. Since I've kept the same number all these years, it was relatively easy for them to find me. Their messages have been filled with anger and accusations, mostly centered around why I disclosed family secrets to Matt. James's message, in particular, was harsh, insisting I should have kept quiet as I had for years and not interfered between him and his son. Overwhelmed and unsure of how to handle the situation, I've been dodging their calls and messages, uncertain of the best way to address this unexpected confrontation. Update 2. I informed Harry about the situation. He was unaware of Matt's outreach and, upon learning that I had shared our past, he felt I shouldn't have done so. His concern wasn't about the truth being wrong but rather that James was clearly unstable and that this revelation would only stir up unnecessary drama in our lives. I also spoke with Matt, who told me he confronted James and Lorraine after our discussion. They attempted to deny everything, labeling me as a liar and accusing me of using them until I could escape to college. Despite their claims, Matt didn't believe them and told them to stay away from his family. He also informed them he would be cutting them off financially. Matt revealed that he and his wife had recently adopted twins, but James and Lorraine had refused to visit them, which had made Matt question their behavior. After learning about my past, Matt understood why they might have been unhappy with his adoption. He assured me he would ask them to leave us alone and extended an invitation for me to visit his twins whenever I could. He expressed a desire to get to know me better, given our sibling connection. I'm touched by his kindness and might take him up on his offer to visit his family with Harry. Update 3. It's been 7 months since my last update, and for those asking, here's what's new. I decided to block James and Lorraine from all communication channels, which has stopped their threatening messages. Matt intervened and spoke to them, so they had no choice but to back off. Harry and I have visited Matt and his wife at least 4 times over the past few months. Each visit has been warm and welcoming, and we've spent hours reconnecting, sharing stories, and bonding over our childhoods. I've also had the joy of spending time with Matt's twins, who are delightful. I'm deeply grateful that Matt reached out and the connection with him and his family has been a source of healing and joy for me. Am I the asshole for feeling suspicious after finding condoms in my boyfriend's toiletry bag? This morning, I was helping my 25 boyfriend, 23, get ready for work. He asked me to grab his toothbrush and toothpaste out of his toiletry bag. He has one of those electric toothbrushes with the detachable head and I couldn't find the head. So I opened up another pocket to look for it. I found condoms, a lot of them. He was given this toiletry bag for Christmas before he left on a 3-month trip to visit family in Europe. He acted surprised, like he didn't know they were in there and took them out immediately. He acted like he didn't know that pocket existed. I'd give him the benefit of the doubt, but at some point these condoms were packed in his bag over the past 6 months. We've been together for 2 years. The worst part is they're latex condoms. I'm allergic to latex. We only use non-latex condoms, in addition to my birth control. AIO for feeling suspicious about this. I feel like I'm going crazy. Update. I've seen the comments and I'm kind of freaking out. I'm messaging my therapist right now to figure out the best path forward. I was there at Christmas when he was given the bag. It was at his best friend's family house, so part of me is hoping that his best friend put them in there not knowing I'm allergic to latex. We haven't been intimate as much lately. Maybe once in the past 2 months. I've been really scared that he's not attracted to me anymore, because that's what most people say on here is the reason for someone's sex drive changing so drastically. He asked to move in with me when he came back from his trip and I said yes, so now I feel really trapped, like what if he's been cheating this whole time he's been living with me? He shares his location but that doesn't really mean anything. I'm here all the time. I've seen the stories of how people cheat even when sharing their location. I wish I hadn't seen anything and I don't know anything he could say to make me feel more secure. Someone said I shouldn't have asked so I could snoop and find out for sure, but I don't want to have to snoop through my partner's belongings to find proof of them cheating on me. A relationship without trust is dead. We're supposed to talk later and I'll update afterwards. Everyone is so sure he's cheating and I really hope he's not because I don't think I'll be able to handle it if he is. I'm already struggling with my mental health as is. Additional information from OP on why she was in therapy. OP, I'm in therapy because I have CPTSD. I am a survivor of attempted murder at the hands of my biological father, sexual assault and abuse. I am in therapy because my diagnosis is something I will have to live with for the remainder of my life, because I have experienced severe trauma, and because I have no intention of letting it ruin my life and relationships with those I love. I'm also not the one turning down sex. I'm the one that's been attempting to initiate. I messaged my therapist because I have a tendency to push people away to protect myself as a result of my history with abuse. My therapist warned me at the start of this current relationship about self-sabotage and reading too much into things. I texted her because I was unsure of whether or not I'm overreacting because sometimes, like any other human, I need advice. I came on here while I was waiting for her to respond. I don't expect people on Reddit to be informed on the details of my life and relationship to be able to have the full picture. Thank you for the diagnosis, assumptions, and empathy. Update 1. I definitely was not expecting to see over 1,000 comments on my post. This update is long to address everyone's concerns in the previous post. Thank you to the people who sent me kind messages to check on me. I'm not sure what the people who sent me messages trying to fuck me were expecting aside from getting blocked. That being said, I did have a conversation with my boyfriend last night. I was always planning on having an in-depth conversation about what I had found, but there was nothing I could do about it while he was at work. I texted my therapist because I could tell I was starting to spiral, and posted on here while I was waiting for her response, which I think was a mistake, if I'm being honest. Although the majority of the comments were supportive, it's impossible for y'all to have as full of a picture as my therapist does, and I should have just waited for her to respond to me instead of coming on here. The massive amount of comments was very overwhelming. However, I do think that posting did help me feel more secure in thinking it was suspicious and enabled me to be more assertive when we talked. I appreciate all the comments telling me I was not overreacting. He never said I was, but his nonchalant response certainly made me feel that way. I appreciate the thought-out comments encouraging me to have a conversation with him and giving me genuine advice for it. The second conversation went better. I didn't accuse him of anything. I pretty much just said that finding non-latex condoms in addition to the lack of intimacy I'd been receiving was making me feel confused and upset. I asked him where the condoms came from. His older brother gave them to him while he was in Europe. To prevent confusion, I'm going to use fake names from here on out. My boyfriend is Theo. His oldest brother is Alvin. His other brother is Simon. Yes, like the Chipmunks. I couldn't think of other names for 3 brothers. Sorry. Theo hadn't met his mother's side of the family, including his mother, grandmother, aunt and older siblings, until his trip. The entire purpose was to get to know his family. He spent half with his aunt, grandma, brothers, and cousin in Spain. The other half of the trip he spent with his mother in the middle of nowhere in Portugal helping her open a kiosk. It was not a sightseeing trip. He didn't get to see any big monuments or go to major cities. I was not able to come because I'm in school and work full time and it wasn't worth it for me to just come for a week during the spring break. I also thought it was important for him to enjoy his one-on-one time with his mom since he was separated from her when he was an infant. His brothers are very different people. Simon seems well adjusted with a long-term girlfriend. He spent a lot of time with Simon and his girlfriend, who was the only one there fluent in English and helped him translate when his Spanish fell short. His oldest brother, the 30-year-old who gave him the condoms, Alvin, has been in and out of prison for a majority of his life. I guess Spain has some weird laws around squatting, so whenever he gets out of prison the dude just claims abandoned property and fixes it up to live in, because I guess the government would have to provide him housing if they kicked him out. Anyways. While Theo was on the trip, he called and texted me every day. He told me about Alvin obnoxiously catcalling girls when they'd all walk down the street and how Alvin had tried to get both him and Simon to go to an orgy with him despite both of them having girlfriends. Theo was very clear about having a girlfriend. He carries around a picture of me in his wallet, and his aunt said he talked about me a lot while he was there. Despite this, Alvin was very pushy with him about how he should be fucking a bunch of women while he was there and having fun. I remember this from when Theo was there. He found it really annoying. So did Simon. I guess during one of those conversations, Alvin straight up gave Theo a bunch of condoms to use to cheat on me. Side note, I counted them based on a comment someone left about how many are typically in a pack. They're all still there, I think. There's 8. I don't know how many come in the packs in Spain. Theo hid them in his bag. He said he would have left them there, but his aunt cleaned his room regularly and he didn't want the drama of his other family members seeing. Once he got back, he forgot they were in there. He only uses his toiletry bag when he goes to the gym. We went out together with our friends Saturday night after his shift and stopped at the gym on the way downtown so he could shower and freshen up. Otherwise his toothbrush is in our bathroom. He's not living out of a suitcase, he's fully moved in. I do see how some commenters saw the existence of the toiletry bag as a red flag when we lived together. So I wanted to clear that up. I did ask him why he accepted the condoms. He said he had zero intention of using them, and that he accepted them because Alvin wouldn't listen to anything Theo said about me and that he left him alone after that. Theo didn't even say goodbye to him when he left. He tried to spend as little time with Alvin as possible, despite him constantly inviting both Theo and Simon over to his abandoned house. Simon grew up with Alvin, but still seemed pretty content about avoiding him when I asked about it while Theo was there. I guess he's just not a good person, so the rest of the family avoids him when possible. So that's it. My boyfriend didn't cheat on me. The condoms came from his older brother. I believe him. He was very straightforward with his answers, and was more concerned with my well-being when he came home and saw how upset I was. He wasn't defensive at all. He listened to me without interrupting. He told me he loves me and that he has zero desire to cheat on me. He also works 2 jobs, shares his location, and usually is at home if he's not at work or the occasional gym visit. He doesn't have the time to see other women, and if he does have spare time, he spends it with me or his friends, who are also my friends. He does have friends separate from our friend group at work, but he invites me to come along when they've gone out or asks me to join them when they play Overwatch after work. I love him. I believe him, and I'm moving past this. That doesn't mean I'll let any additional red flags slide if they pop up though. As many of you said, I'm still young and have my whole life ahead of me. If things get worse, I know I'll be okay by myself. I love him and I want him in my life, but my happiness doesn't depend on his presence. I have a therapy session tomorrow, and I've had a lot of time to think. In hindsight, I think what made me spiral the most was that if he really did cheat on me, I'd be living with a stranger. I've had so much trust built up towards him, so I view him as this person who would never hurt me intentionally or yell at me or cheat on me. If he was capable of cheating on me, he could be capable of those other things too. That was really scary to think about and made me spiral. The massive amount of comments where everyone was so convinced he was a terrible person and that I'd been fooled also did not help. I felt like I had no idea how he would react towards me if it was true, and I was very, very scared. As soon as he came home, I felt very silly for feeling that way. He's nothing like my ex. He's never given me a reason to be afraid of him. I shouldn't have let comments on the internet freak me out so bad, and I definitely need to take some time away from Reddit. I hope I addressed all the concerns in the comments. Thank you for all your help. Thank you for listening. For the commenters who had questions regarding our sex life and relationship in general. When he first came back from his trip and moved in, things were normal and we both had high sex drives. Things started slowing down pretty drastically over the past couple of months. We've talked about it prior to me finding the condoms. We both acknowledge that it's an issue and that we're at an age where our sexual activity should be at its peak. He says he doesn't know what's wrong. He's embarrassed because he's attracted to me and doesn't understand how he can have a gorgeous girlfriend and lose his sex drive. His words, not mine. He has an appointment next week to get his hormones checked and has been looking into getting a therapist of his own in case the issue is mental and not physical. It's still difficult to not feel insecure when I try initiating and he's not in the mood, but he still makes an effort to show affection in other ways. Our current level of intimacy isn't ideal, but I don't think it's a lost cause as long as we're working towards a solution together. We have date nights every week. I'm very supportive of him spending time with his friends and he does the same for me. We live together, but no one is clingy or codependent. We do check in with each other to see how we're feeling about the living situation since it is somewhat new and we're still figuring out how to divide and conquer with household tasks. I'm a full-time student and I work full-time. He works 2 jobs. We both contribute equally, and do our best to make time for ourselves and each other despite our busy schedules. I have 14 credits this summer and barely exist outside of work and school, lol. For the commenters who had some things to say about me having a therapist or mental health issues. I try my best to ensure that I am my main support system. I've been in the position before of being someone's emotional punching bag due to their mental illness and I would never ever put someone I love in that position. I'm in therapy because I have experienced an extreme amount of trauma and don't want my CPTSD to impact my life and relationships in a negative way. I grew up with a mom with severe anxiety, and most likely undiagnosed PTSD, related to the trauma both of us experienced at the hands of my biological father. She doesn't believe in therapy. I had to call 911 several times as a small child because of her panic attacks. I love my mom, and our relationship has come a long way, but the last thing I would want when I have children is for me to be an unstable parental figure. My usage of therapy doesn't warrant me staying single. My therapist has been very encouraging of this relationship since my boyfriend asked me out 2 years ago. I had gotten out of an incredibly abusive and toxic relationship the year prior, and had zero intention of getting into another serious relationship anytime soon. I was thriving and my therapist thought I was ready, but I told my boyfriend that I needed to focus on myself. We took things slow. He was respectful and patient every step of the way until I was ready. He has never raised his voice at me or even cussed at me. He is a very caring partner. I think his love language is based on quality time and acts of service. He's not great with words, but he tries. He can be a bit emotionally distant at times and not know exactly what to say when I'm upset, but that doesn't prevent him from being there and giving me a hug when I need it. We've been going through a rough patch with our intimacy, and when I was off my meds I felt like he, and everyone else in my life, viewed me as a burden despite him telling me he'd be there for me and for me to just ask for whatever I needed. He's told me many times that he's still attracted to me and that it has nothing to do with me, but when I was feeling low I kind of let my past trauma impact how I felt about myself. Being repeatedly sexually assaulted kind of made me feel like my worth is based on my sexuality, so having a boyfriend who isn't all over me anymore made me feel like there was something wrong with me. Like if I'm trying to initiate and am available and the person who loves me doesn't want it, but someone else was willing to violently take it from me when I didn't want it, what does that say about me? I know that's not rational and I've talked a lot about it in therapy, but it is something that I struggle with sometimes. I posted on here during a low time with my depression because I needed to vent and didn't want to burden anyone I knew with my irrational negativity. Depression is weird, especially after years of therapy. When I'm at my lowest, the intrusive thoughts are overwhelming, but deep down I know they're irrational and that they'll eventually pass, even if it doesn't feel like it on the surface level. I know some of the things I said then were concerning, but I really wasn't in any danger. There's a lot of things I want to accomplish in my life and I know I'm capable of them even if it does feel hopeless sometimes. I know I have people in my life who love me. I just have a hard time reaching out for help when I need it and need to be better at letting people be there for me. My mom raised me to be really self-sufficient and she's also got a lot on her plate with my dad being sick, so I don't want to bother her and make her spiral more than she already is. I've been set back a lot with my education because of all the stuff I've been going through, but I know I have a bright future and that I should be proud of myself for making it this far. I am back on medication and am increasing the frequency of my therapy appointments from once a month to every other week. I was doing well before I went off my meds, so I'm doing my best to get back on track. Sorry for rambling. I know I don't owe anyone an explanation of my mental health here, but I know some people were worried. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay, with or without my boyfriend. My mental illness does not prevent me from being a loving and supportive friend and partner. Using therapy doesn't make me a weak person incapable of standing up for myself and making decisions. Update 2. I'm low-key regretting posting an update at all. I don't know why the opinions of strangers bother me, but it's kind of annoying that so many people didn't read the entire thing and just said I wrote all that to convince myself. I wrote that a full 24 hours after I had my conversation with him and debated posting anything at all because I figured people would be convinced he cheated regardless of anything I had to say. It's detailed because so many people had different things to say about different parts of my original post. I thought if I just posted his brother gave him the condoms, people would say that was a vague answer. Of course it feels like a complex story to someone who never heard about his trip, but the only thing I didn't already know was that his brother had given him condoms. His trip was a shit show. He was on the phone with me every single day telling me about it and fell asleep on the phone with me 99% of the time. He wasn't going out at night, he wasn't partying. Half his trip he spent with his estranged mother and her crazy racist abusive boyfriend who kept accusing him of stealing and saying wild shit about how he couldn't believe my boyfriend would sleep with an *****er like me. I had to talk him down on the phone to keep him from freaking out and endangering himself because he had no way of getting home if his mom's boyfriend kicked him out. He already got abandoned in a random town in Portugal by them for like a full day and a half at one point. I'm not surprised the condom slipped his mind. If he hadn't maintained constant communication with me while he was there, I'd be more suspicious. If he hadn't told me about all the other crazy shit his brother pulled while he was there, I'd be more suspicious. If he had gotten defensive at all, I'd be suspicious. He didn't lie to me. He didn't know they were there. The bag has 1,000,000 pockets and he only really uses one of them. The pocket seemed empty from the outside. He forgot he stashed them there. People seem so sure that I'm this naive, spineless person when I'm not. If you'd read what I said about my mental health, you would know I already have a tendency to be hyper-vigilant about red flags and be avoidant to protect myself. I don't like being vulnerable. I don't like depending on other people. I mentioned my boyfriend never yelling or cursing because I've quite literally never witnessed him get angry. The most upset I've seen him was when he was trying to defend me while he was in Europe. He's probably the most calm, stoic person I've ever met. I love that about him. I love him. I trust him. Also, his last serious relationship ended with him catching his ex in the act of cheating on him. She had mental health issues and responded to being caught by attempting to kill herself by walking into traffic. I know some internet troll is going to say that's another far-fetched story, but I know it's true. His best friend's mom, who is basically also his mom, pulled me aside when she met me and told me that she was glad he found someone that makes him so happy after everything he went through with her. I don't think he would cheat on me after going through something like that. He's a really good person. He's fully capable of being a support system for me. I just was afraid to let him because I didn't want him to feel like he had to worry about me or take care of me the way he did with her. That's not healthy though. I'm trying to be better at trusting people when they say that they want to be there for me, and that includes him. We met at school. He sat behind me in class so he couldn't even really see me. When I asked him later what most attracted him to me, he said that I was well-spoken. My appearance was just a bonus. I don't want to sound conceited, but there is rarely a time when I'm in public and I'm not approached by someone who wants to catcall me, compliment me, or ask me out. I was almost kidnapped twice as a teenager. I hate being approached. I hate being asked out. I turned down every other person that approached me at school trying to hook up or ask me out. But when he did it, he was so nervous and respectful and he felt different somehow, and so I said yes. On our very first date, he took me to an art museum. We went to an amusement park after that. He followed that up with a picnic under the stars where we spoke for at least 5 or 6 hours about our lives and what we wanted in the future. It felt scary at the time because it was the best date I'd ever been on in my life and I didn't think I was ready for anything serious, and he came along and made me feel so comfortable and at ease. We both come from emotionally volatile parents and are trying to do our best not to become them. We connected right away, but I still wanted to take things slow. It took 6 months before I was ready to make things official. During that time, he made it clear that I was the only one he was interested in. He detailed my car multiple times, brought me flowers, got my cat little holiday-themed bandanas. He bought me vinyls of albums that he noticed I listened to in the car. He did all of this without expecting anything in return, and still does these things to this day. He's trying to learn how to braid so we don't have to get my hair done anymore. When he moved in, he organized my whole closet without me asking because he remembered me complaining about it and wanted to take something off my plate. He saw I've been wanting a Gustav Westman mirror for a while and built me one. With his hands. Took me to Home Depot and let me pick out the color I wanted for it and everything. He treats me like a queen. The only rough patch in our relationship has been over the past couple of months when our intimacy decreased, but I have faith things will get better. Finding those condoms freaked me out, but I'm over it now. It's been resolved. If you can't see the value he adds to my life, that's your problem. I'm happy. I'm not responding to any more comments about it. I appreciate everyone that was supportive and recognize the effort I've put into my emotional regulation. I'm going to take a break from Reddit and enjoy the life I have.